my dreams, I walk free in the city streets. 2,500 days plus 50 weeks, doing hard time for these WikiLeaks, trying to bring the truth out. Man, it only gets you heat, and then they gag you. You don't get to speak, and when you get the leak, they try to hit delete. The masses of the masses, they want the shit discreet. That's why my middle finger's up to these sick elites. Free speech, it's the freedom of press. Take your deepest, darkest secrets, never leave them unsaid. If I'm a thief, then I'm a thief for the people you dread. The people of the red, white and blue, you keep them in bed. Seeing the sheep, keep them asleep, deceiving the weak. Keep seeking the leaks till you cease, and I see your defeat. Until I'm deceased underneath a freezing red sheet. Become a dead man, then I hit the switch and release. When Goldman Sachs is your creditor, you kill the messenger. Stories axed by the editor, you kill the messenger. Pay to play on the regular, you kill the messenger. Need to silence any questioners, you kill the messenger. And outside my window a figure quickly creeps. They dark as night like some motherfucking chimney sweeps. Whiskey with my Mickey keeps dying in my kidneys weak. Silence in my risky tweets is what the grand jury seeks. I'm wanting peace like 7 years in Tibet. Now rest in peace like 7 years under threat. Cause I've released 7 vaults, they upset. They ended the rape sentence, but the US still insists to rest. I guess it's a sin to take the truth and disseminate. MLK to Gandhi, take aim and eliminate. And I don't say I'm great, just wanna say what's fake. But if they kill me, a million others will take my place. The CIA's post like a knife the sharpest. All hypocrisy, lies, and heartless. They want to stop me, my life make my heart quit. Cause democracy dies in the darkness. When Goldman Sachs is your creditor, you kill the messenger. Stories axed by the editor, you kill the messenger. Pay to play on the regular, you kill the messenger. Need to silence any questioners, you kill the messenger. When the vote count is irregular, you kill the messenger. You caught spying on a senator, you kill the messenger. Removing voters from the register, you kill the messenger. Need to silence any questioners, you kill the messenger. In my dreams, I walk free in the city streets. 2,500 days plus 50 weeks, doing hard time for these WikiLeaks, trying to bring the truth out. Man, it only gets you heat, and then they gag you. You don't get to speak, and when you get the leak, they try to hit delete. The masses of the masses, they want the shit discreet. That's why my middle finger's up to these sick elites. Playing on the regular, you kill the messenger. Free speech is the freedom of press. Take your deepest, darkest secrets, never leave them unsaid. If I'm a thief, then I'm a thief for the people you dread. The people want the red, white and blue, you keep them in bed. Seeking the sheep, keep them asleep, deceiving the weak. Keep seeking the leaks till you cease, and I see your defeat. Until I'm deceased underneath a freezer red sheet. Become a dead man, then I hit the switch and release. When Goldman Sachs is your creditor, you kill the messenger. window, a figure quickly creeps. They dark as night like some motherfucking chimney sweeps. Whiskey what my Mickey keeps, dying in my kidneys weak. Silence of my risky tweets, what the grand jury seeks. I'm wanting peace, like 7 years in Tibet. Now rest in peace, like 7 years under threat. Cause I've released 7 vaults, they upset. They ended the rape sentence, but the US still insists to rest. I guess it's a sin to take the truth and disseminate. And okay to Gandhi, take him and eliminate. And I don't say I'm great, just wanna say what's fake. But if they kill me, a million others will take my place. The CIA's post like a knife the sharpest. All hypocrisy, lies, and heartless. They want to stop me, my life make my heart quit. Cause democracy dies in the darkness. Cause democracy dies in the darkness. You kill the messenger. You kill the messenger. Democracy dies in the darkness. Feeling cold now, but got the heater on. Feeling sold out, even though I'm keeping strong. But can I hold out when every bit of freedom's gone? They want me rolled out, never to sing freedom song. I wanna see the sky, I wanna feel the rain. But gotta keep away from windows, that's some window pane. It's just a shame, couldn't have planned out all our dreams. Now I scream, cause there's a man in the machine. But the train is off the tracks, and damn it's losing steam. I wanna call Christine, I haven't seen since 013. I'm missing life like 3 strikes each night. Seems like 3 nights ain't right. Can't fight, space light, hate life. Wanting to be snake-like, shedding off this gray life. In the dark can't make light, but where I'm headed now is brake lights. Where I'm headed now they break lights. Counting days like brake lights. Feeling weight like brake lights. Had a great life. Brake lights. Brake lights. Brake lights. Out of place like brake lights. In my face like brake lights. Counting days like brake lights. Brake lights. Brake lights. Sit here asking, what have I done? If these strings were cut, I'd see my son. And if I could just fly from this place, then I'd hold you in my love embrace. And if I could just speak to you now, I'd renew my vow and be in the now. Is this me in denial? Wanna remove stress from your brow and pay you back some way, somehow. But it's painted black, can see the way back now. But how's the house and how's your mom? I doubt the way the media portrays me makes you hate me. But to think you see that daily makes me crazy, that just ain't me.
This is without a doubt going to be this generation's Free Mandela movement. Every single generation must fight again the same battles that previous generations have fought.
Brake lights, counting days like brake lights, 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 brake lights.
Welcome along, people. Welcome to WikiBees 22. We're here joined with a panel of people. We've got Mendy and Jose and Bruce and a few others will be joining us. So today we're running WikiBees. I expect you caught the vigil yesterday or last night or whenever it was for you, 14 hours ago. But we're back for more. And certainly there's a lot of news to cover, and there's been some developments in the space. So it's going to be an exciting one. I'm hoping to have a look through our website and see if we can get some movement on that myself. But certainly there's a few people here to have a discussion about the latest news and things. So it's fantastic to have you all here. I'm hoping that that it's all working fine. I'm not sure if you're watching on the Unity for J stream, if your chat comments are coming through to the other channels, but certainly make yourselves heard in all the channels. Tell us what's happening, and we'll try and keep an eye on chat as well. So fantastic stuff. Right, so Bruce, what have we got today?
Oh, as usual, we give priority to live reports on the ground from the embassy, in particular, the vigilists outside the embassy, and looking forward to talking to them again today. And there's a lot going on there as well. Things are hotting up. And also, we're lucky enough to have Jose Rivera on with us already, reporting live from Ecuador. Ecuador, the country that's sheltering Julian Assange, and the president now doesn't want to shelter Julian Assange. So, yeah, between those two, it gives a very good indication of the difficulties that he's in at the moment. Things are really hotting up, and he's in a dangerous situation. So I think, hi Jose.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, very good, thank you. So we'd love to hear from you about the latest events from Ecuador. Joe, just to mention that someone's jumped on from the embassy in London to be promoted to panelist.
Yes. Well, the ambassador, new ambassador, Mr. Marchand, will be going to London probably Monday, and
yes.
Yes, and so he is coming with a new agenda, a more aggressive agenda, as he says, you know, at the end of the because I posted the interview that they did on him, and
yes.
At the end it says very clearly, you know, that the Ecuador, the presence of Assange at the embassy has soured the relationship.
Yes, incredible.
Between England and Ecuador, you know, political, commercial, and diplomatic. So he is coming to fix that. So yes. His idea is, he says in the interview, you know, that the embassy is not an asylum. It's not a place for asylum.
Really, Jose, shall we try and find the interview? Is it on your Twitter?
I posted on Unity for J. The letter, the interview.
Yeah, it's in our mentions if you're on the Unity for J account, Bruce.
Okay.
Yeah, I put it there in the is the translation I did.
Yeah, it's fantastic to have your tweets coming through, and you know, thank you for tagging us with these bits of information. We do share them around the server and you know, let people know.
So I'll screen share actually, assuming we can find it.
Yeah, I posted it about 3 hours ago.
Oh, okay. I saw earlier reports of it.
Yeah, I saw it when I woke up this morning, and yeah, interesting.
Trying to find. Hopefully that's the right one. Yes. So we'll go to mentions. Oops, I've gone one too far, I think. So a recent post from you to at Unity for J. There it is. Is that right? No, that's another one from you though, Jose. We can get back to that.
That was interesting.
Yeah, it was.
Here it is.
Right there. That's it.
So let's see. If I click on these pictures, I think I have to go back in and out of the Zoom, or does it show? Is that showing the picture, or is that still showing the Twitter?
It's an image that you have to amplify a little, zoom in to make it more readable if you want.
Okay.
Zoom in a little, control and scroll, I think.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
That's good, yeah.
Hopefully people can see this on the stream.
Yeah,
okay.
I can read it fine.
You can read it fine?
Yeah.
I'll just read it. It's the first time I've seen this particular report, Jose, so I'll just read it. New ambassador of Ecuador seeks a relationship with London beyond Assange. Well, I'll give you some basic background also, Jose, is that it was the previous president of Ecuador, Rafael Correa, who took Julian Assange in and also gave him citizenship. The new president, he's completely changed the course of Ecuador, and he also is not supportive of Assange. And so things have gotten worse and worse at the Ecuadorian embassy for Julian. They took out all of the staff that were friendly to him and replaced them. And then the ambassador, who he was friendly to Julian, and also he was the one who negotiated with the UK on Julian's behalf a lot, as I understand it. And the current Ecuador president just fired him, as I understand it. And for a few days, there was no ambassador there at all. And this is just news since the last WikiBees that a new ambassador has been appointed. Jaime Marchand? No. How does it? Close enough?
Yes, Jaime Marchand.
Jaime Marchand.
Yes.
Will soon travel to London. Oh, let's see. This is dated the 7th of December. Okay, so he's on his way, or maybe he's arrived by now, has he?
Yeah, probably, yes.
Yes. So he will soon travel to London with the aim of, this is a horrible article, fostering a bilateral relationship. Punished.
Yes, that's how they say it. That's what he said.
The relationship between Ecuador and Ecuador has been punished by Julian Assange.
Yeah, when you translate things, they come out like that. But yeah, you get the meaning. Essentially, the relationship has been broken down because of Assange.
Oh, this is your translation. Is this your personal translation, Jorge?
No, I think it's automatic.
Yes. Well, I put it on Yandex, and then I corrected all the mistakes.
Yeah. So you get the meaning of it.
But he considers it's not conditioned by his asylum. So this is the ambassador. The instructions I have received are very clear and are essentially aimed at strengthening Ecuador's relationship with the United Kingdom. He explains. The relationships that were punished by Julian Assange. 71 years old and from Quito.
So was he previously, or did it say he's previously consul and charge d'affaires at the same in the embassy or in the British capital in 1975 to 1978? Is that what I'm reading? Was he previously a?
Yes, he was
diplomat?
he was working there before.
Yeah. Okay. So he's been in the embassy before, years and years ago, 1975 to 78. Yeah.
So, a further quote from him: "It is set among its objectives to leave the area of media attention in relation to Mr. Assange's asylum, a situation that does not benefit the interests of the country." So this interview, we should actually try and find the original. If there's a transcript of that.
Well, there's a link up the top to the original article, but
I posted that on Discord on Ecuador events. The whole Spanish and English article.
Yeah, this is where we need our real-time journalism, people. But yeah, certainly it was in the the translations channel.
Yes. So he continues.
What can you tell us about Bruce? This paper or this website in Comercio? What can you tell us about it? Is it reliable?
It's as you know, only millionaires can afford to have a newspaper or a TV, station or a radio station.
Yeah,
so there you have it. It's a millionaire's. It's a millionaire interviewing a conservative, politician. So they are of the same club.
So this is a big website. Is it like a big newspaper?
Yes, it's the main newspaper of the capital of Ecuador.
All right. Okay.
So they have another smaller version that they publish only in the city of Quito. This newspaper, it's printed throughout the country.
Okay. So this is intended for an Ecuadorian audience mainly, right?
Yes, it's mainly for Ecuador.
Okay.
I just finished. So let's see. The last thing he said: in recent years, due to the situation we have in the embassy, there has been a cooling and forced distancing of relations. Well, Julian Assange is so powerful, isn't he?
Yep.
Said Machin, explaining that it is due to two radically opposed views on asylum.
See, that's what I mean.
So those would be the views of the UK and Ecuador, or who's the opposed view?
Well,
the Correa view.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
Well, they're trying to sell the idea that there's multiple interpretations of asylum in international law, which is complete bullshit. I mean, it's very clear what asylum is. But they're trying to create some uncertainty, to put some fuzziness in there, and then they tell you, oh, by the way, we decide to adopt the interpretation that asylum is about kicking out the person whenever we want. That's what they try to do.
Well, certainly it is a situation that's a bit out of the ordinary, where you've got an asylee in an embassy for going on years.
Well, it happened already.
It never happened.
No, it happened actually. There was this guy I think it was in the USSR. He stayed in an American embassy for I think 15 years or 10 years. for a very long time.
From a previous Wikipedia. I just finished this. Finish the quote.
Yeah, go ahead.
He recalled that the United Kingdom did not recognize the obligations to respect asylum because it was not a signatory to international conventions.
That would be interesting to try and figure out. I'm pretty sure they would have signed up to those same conventions, but yeah.
Well, they are they have adopted the United Nations system. So this is all bullshit. I mean, this paragraph is a complete lie, complete bullshit. And the UN, the group on I don't remember exactly its name, the UN WGAD, I think, has decided twice that this was an arbitrary detention that Assange was in. So
yes.
This is a complete lie. This paragraph is a complete lie.
Yes.
Intriguing that they're saying that Ecuador is a party to these conventions, especially the conventions of the United States, which is we adopt the conventions of the United States, where we just ignore people and we extradite them from anywhere in the world.
In exchange for
donations, in exchange for money.
For advantages.
Yes. So the next paragraph is basic background that's good to have. Assange was held by Ecuador at his London embassy in 2012 when he entered on the grounds that he feared being arrested on British soil and deported to the United States.
Yep.
Where he could be tried for publishing classified military and diplomatic documents. At least this article is true, that's the reason that he entered.
Yeah. Is there another page of it?
Of the article, I believe so, yes. Oh, there's a whole other page.
Do you want to just make that a bit bigger too? It's a bit small.
Do you say shift mouse? I was doing a slightly different
Control and scroll your mouse if you got to scroll. Oh, yeah. Or yeah. Oh, good.
It's huge. He was wanted by the English courts. That's basically an excuse by the English courts. Ecuador offered the founder of WikiLeaks this year to comply with the protocol stipulating rules of coexistence within the embassy, or to voluntarily surrender to British justice with certain guarantees. So, what a lovely offer from Ecuador.
Which set of wolves do you want to be thrown to? Do you want to exist in the embassy under essential, lock and key and solitary confinement and no contact, or do you want to go out on the streets? Which choice would you like to make?
Yeah, that's what they're trying to do. In the previous paragraph, they speaking about charges. Of course, there were no charges against Assange in the Swedish case, but this is a classic and such an easy libel to create. Anyway.
Yes, the previous paragraph is factually false. There were never any charges, as you say. So this offering him to comply with the protocol, he's not required to comply with any protocol. He has asylum there granted.
Well, if you look at it from the perspective of he is. Well, myself, I've been into a number of embassies over the years, and even business premises and commercial things. They all make you sign their code of conduct there. While on our premises, you must do this. And so you could argue that what they're doing is nothing more than that. Sure, it's more onerous, and they're asking him to give up his rights of free speech and
exactly.
And his liberty. But it's no different from, well, for example, if you and I went into a foreign embassy and they would say, hey, you can't take photos, you can't talk about what you see here, those sort of things. So from Ecuador's perspective, they're saying, well, this is ordinary, we're just getting them to sign up. From the perspective of a person who's been locked up without the necessities of human interaction for a number of years, it's just completely untenable, and it's essentially signing up for more torture, which no one's going to do, right?
Yes, I think he has international guarantees under international law on the way he should be treated. For example, like they're asking him to pay for his food and everything like that. He's been granted asylum. Well, maybe we shouldn't talk anymore on this because we're not really experts, but let's see. So I just read the quotes, mainly the quotes, because the quotes are the message that he's trying to send. So did I read this? Neither nationalization nor that frustrated intention to give him a diplomatic appointment resulted. So I repeat, I see more the idea that Mr. Assange has to make a decision, which is false. He doesn't.
Yeah, I think this article is intended for shaping the Ecuadorian public opinion in order to prepare them for
yes.
whatever they have in store for Assange.
Yes, and furthermore, it's quoting the ambassador, so the ambassador's doing the same thing, but yes, maybe also internationally. I don't know who's he's speaking for, but we mainly, the ambassador's quote continues. The government of Ecuador considers that obtaining these guarantees is sufficient to establish an environment of legal security with which Mr. Assange may consider freely and voluntarily the option of appearing before the British courts.
Yeah, it's because the Brits, I think they have promised not to extradite him, but you know, it has to be written. I think if
no, they haven't. They haven't.
I think it was verbal so far. But
we might not, but you know, we might just let a foreign country come in and just take you. We won't formally extradite. But you
right, exactly. They will formally come and kidnap you, right? Yeah, I mean, the Brits, as far as I remember, the Brits have always refused. The British authorities have always refused to give written guarantees to Julian's lawyers to not extradite him to the U.S. So
yes.
this article is very partial, actually. In addition to being false.
So let's see. It was last March that Marchand met Assange personally. Last August that he met him personally after being commissioned to send him a communication in response to another of his attorney, that's Julian's attorney, at a time when the protocol issue was already being resolved. So this new appointee has already had contact with Julian Assange.
Right.
In August. Do you remember that, Jose?
Yes. I don't remember that. I just found out that Marchand had met Assange before.
Yes. Okay. Faced with the mission he has to face, the new veteran diplomat argues that, quote, the embassy is not an asylum camp, but a diplomatic mission that has a daily business to accomplish.
See, that's what I was told.
Yeah, they are desperate.
Yeah,
I mean, international law is very clear. International law is very clear, but they are so desperate for, you know, they find all kinds of excuses and they try to twist reality, you know.
Yes, that is one of the missions of an embassy, isn't it? To facilitate asylum.
Yeah, if you are part of the United Nations, and Ecuador has also ratified the Inter-American Convention on Human Rights, and I don't know, it's in its constitution even, without looking at international law. It's in the constitution of the country to not extradite a citizen.
Yes.
So you know, it's a fake article. It's a fake everything. You know, full of lies.
Yes, we have inherited that situation. We are obliged to respect it, and we want to respect it, he said.
Doesn't look like it.
No.
It also revealed a little-known aspect, which is that the prolonged asylum situation, quote, reduced the embassy's operational space And the Ecuadorian state had to face a high cost and rent housing outside that building in the downtown of London.
If I remember correctly, Julian's room has a surface of 9 square meters, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Ridiculously small, and it's not the food that was provided for him in the previously. It's not the food that he eats every day that is going to bankrupt the Ecuadorian economy, I think, right?
Yes. It's small change, yes. Continuing the quote, it is not a question of $2, $3, $4, or $5 million. It is the unquenchable damage that this situation has produced to Ecuador and its relationship with the United Kingdom.
Mm-hmm. Well, they have buried the lead, right? It's all about money, clearly. It's not about 5 million, it's about 500 million and billions of dollars.
Yes. But at the same time, he believes that this cooling in bilateral relations paves the way for the improvement of diplomatic ties and in other areas such as political, cultural, or commercial. Ending. Above all, at a time when the United Kingdom is seeking to disengage from the European Union and, quote, contemplates trade agreements with other countries to accommodate its exports, and Ecuador aspires to be a partner.
Yeah, they're burying the lead again. Yeah, it's about trade, it's about money. That's it.
Yes, so that's the article. Thank you, Jose.
Yeah, thanks for sharing.
You know, you can see the spirit of the letter. He's going to London to expel Assange. It's very clear in the letter. And that article is meant for Ecuadorians to read, you know.
Exactly.
Because so there is something going to come up soon, because tomorrow Lenin is going to China. So another coincidence. The two guys leave the country almost at the same day. So and also that kind of plays with the rumors that we've been hearing since a week that Lenin Moreno will probably is planning something big for the end of the month of December. So we don't know what it is. Some people, the idea is that the new vice president, it's a right-wing vice president, and they are saying that probably the new vice president is going to become the interim president, and Lenin is going to leave the country.
Whoa!
In other words, escape. That is the rumor.
Just a rumor, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because you see the right-wing party which has taken over government is from the city of Guayaquil. You know, the elites of the city of Guayaquil, which is an industrial city, and they have the reins of the government now. And they are already posted a candidate of one of their guys to replace the outgoing vice president who resigned for corruption. But we just found out that this guy has secret money hidden in outside of the country, you know, in paradise, fiscal paradise,
tax havens,
Panama, yes. You know. Yes. But Correa left a law that prohibited that a person cannot take a position in government if that person has money hidden in outside of the country.
Yeah.
Yes,
that's right.
Yes. But we found that this guy has money hiding in Panama. So with some, companies that, the usual.
Yeah.
So we don't know what's going to happen, but they swept under the rug the corruption case that Moreno had. They didn't want to investigate. They just swept it under the rug, and the press never put anything. No investigation, nothing. They just said it was a gift, and that's it. And it ended that way. So we don't know whether this new vice president, they are going to do the same thing, that they will keep quiet and the Ecuadorians will never find out that this guy has money outside of the country, in order for not to pay taxes. Yeah, so and I was shocked today when I went to the fair market this morning. There was a lady with a little megaphone, and now she was selling the newspaper. But the newspaper that she was announcing did not touch any of these things, or, for example, the glass hanger strike. No, the newspaper was front page had somebody killed this guy, and 7 policemen, false policemen assaulted the house. That was the main front page of the newspaper, while all these big things are going on. So so that shows you the situation that we are living now.
Exactly.
So
it's classic.
Right. So we haven't seen any protests because everybody is too busy, looking for for food to put a plate, on their families.
Yeah, food in their
plate. They're not going to think twice, whether to go to protest or whether to put food on the table. They just want, the first one will take, priority. So the situation in Ecuador, the economic situation has gone down bad. It has gone down a lot. Unemployment, self-employment, inflation has increased. So a few things are not good, And the government a few months ago gave the elites $4 billion in tax cutoffs, tax discounts.
Yeah, classic.
This was money that the elites owed the government, more than $4 billion. And they said, well, we're doing this because in this way, we will be collecting, people will come to pay their taxes. And we will be collecting $800 million. A lie. They just collected 120 million. So there you have it. It's a government for the elites.
Exactly. Well, that's what Macron did.
Yes. Right. Yes. And you saw what Ron is doing, to the people. I mean, that is terrible. So, probably if we go on a mass protest here, they're going to do the same thing, shoot at us, That's because it is not the first time that they've done it. So they'll do it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So a few months ago, Lenín Moreno signed a decree ordering the armed forces to use incremental force.
Lethal force.
So that, tells you that oh yes. So he's telling us, if you go to protest, we're going to use force.
Yeah.
And we have to kill you, we'll have to kill you.
Yeah.
Exactly. Excuse me. So that's the situation now, and the new vice president Lenin sent the list of 3 candidates to vice president, and number 1, his preferred one, as you know, he's corrupt, and he's also from the city of Guayaquil.
Yes, I think you tweeted on this, Jose. Can you remind us what is the reason why Lenin has to have a new vice president?
Oh, did we lose Jose?
Has Jose stepped out, has he?
Oh, I think Jose's back.
I got disconnected.
Okay, no problem.
Oh, okay. Do you want to take a break, Jose? Because
Sure.
The London people are here, the vigilists.
Oh, yes. Yes, that's great to hear from them.
Okay. Yeah, we might come back. There's a lot going on. There's new vice president and everything, and
yes,
the situation of Jorge Glass, of course.
Right.
Let's see anyway. So 3 Prism is showing on the screen. That's you, is it, Sylvie?
You have to unmute yourself, Sylvie. Okay.
Oh, you have to unmute yourself. How do we unmute?
Oh, it's okay. Okay. We've done it. Hear
now. Hello.
Yes.
Hi. Pass you over to Kieran.
All right.
Joe.
Hi there.
Excellent.
How are you?
Oh, right, a little sleep deprived, and it's a pretty surreal location. Must be one of the wealthiest streets. And Russian oligarchs and American plutocrats, and even Jose Mourinho from Manchester United. So, yeah. So last night it was funny. We had a really good event to mark the 8th anniversary of Julian being detained without charge, and I was pretty tired after that. I'll come back to that in detail later. But I was asleep for about an hour. Then these 2 people were outside my cardboard plastic teepee, and they said that local residents were concerned about my welfare being homeless, and I just said, look, I'm not homeless, and I'm here because your government is detaining my friend without charge for 8 years. Will you please go away, because I'm asleep? And they were very persistent, so I kind of it was a very thin teepee, and I brought it down coming out of it to talk to them. So it was a bit like that American thing of Vietnam. They had to destroy the village to save it. So they kind of destroyed my house, trying to engage me on the question of homelessness. So that was kind of ironic, like many things. This is about my 17th day, 24/7 on Hands Crescent. And the 3 Harrods, the building Julian's in, and what used to be a former Crown Court, all owned by the royal family of Qatar. So I came out, and I assumed they were both homeless workers, outreach. They said they were outreach. And I said, look, since I had a captive audience and can't resist one, I said, you've really got to be careful that you might be used as soft power to, economically cleanse this area of people who are not on millions of dollars a year. And I said, there was one group that was actually informing to the police about illegal asylum seekers and were facilitating the deportation. And then I said, who do you work for? And the guy said, St. Mungo's. And I said, that's exactly the group that was doing that. And I asked the other guy, who do you work for? And he was a London Metropolitan policeman dressed exactly like the other guy. And, and then later in the conversation, this policeman said that he'd been stationed here for 3 years, right in the spot where I now occupy. And So that was interesting, but they were so persistent, like they just wouldn't take no for an answer. And so eventually I took a flyer off them. I guess they got to tick a box, and I went back to sleep. But preceding that, we had at the end of the alley, which one of the heads of Harrods Security. Now in that alley, there's 17 cameras. We've been told by Harrods workers. So no wonder the English are so self-conscious. They're the most surveilled city in the world, I think, unless the Chinese have caught up. So, you know, we call their bluff in that alley, and we've prayed there, we've sung there, we've played football there. We had a great football game, WikiLeaks versus the Deep State. Once those huge roller doors come down, and there's 10 loading bays in underneath that third building. So yeah, it's, you know, a lot of the working poor who are here to service the hyper wealthy are quite reasonable, especially ones from outside of England. You know, I've met Syrian refugees working here. I was talking to a man whose father, you know, his 13 was separated in Bosnia, and his father was executed, you know, as the ethnic cleansing took place. And there's a lot of tragedy amongst these people, and they can immediately sympathise. This afternoon, a group of Welsh travellers, I didn't even know that ethnic group existed, but obviously the boxer Tyson Fury is a traveller, and the Irish travellers have quite a pile in Ireland. And they stayed for 2 hours, and the young boy, who's only 11, was very inquisitive, and the father very sympathetic, and just in the dark, because the Catholic Worker Farm did give us a battery-operated light, which we used to great effect last night, but didn't have the opportunity to recharge it today. So in the dark, about an hour ago, a Muslim woman emerged, an older woman, and gave me some food. So yeah, some really beautiful acts of kindness amongst all this, you know, really hyper Christmas stuff. You might be able to see behind me is Harrods, and you know, it's kind of like sort of radical Christian anarchist pacifists, is like the Temple of Doom. You know, like don't know what it's got to do with the birth of Jesus and King Herod. I don't know if there's any relation to Herod, but the search and destroy mission he launched after that birth to kill every child under 3. So, of course, the children of Yemen are now suffering that in a contemporary sense. And when you consider that, you know, the biggest shareholder in British Aerospace that is literally making a killing in Yemen is the husband of the Prime Minister, you know, the corporate death machine and government are literally in bed together, you know. Not that I want to find out what they're doing there, but, you know, metaphorically, it's hand in glove. And as I said last time, I was only in the country 7 weeks in '96 before BAE dragged me to the High Court to put a lifetime injunction on me and 12 other people. So, you know, and we were infiltrated in Liverpool Catholic Worker for 3 years by a man who went under the name Alan Fossey, who was, we believe, was Sergeant Alistair, formerly of 14 Company, that did the targeting in the north of Ireland of Irish Catholics for assassination by the SAS. And which brings us right back to Hans Crescent. Like, this is a military operation. The cops, the armed cops, like last night, a couple of nights ago, we were just sitting there, and two cops with small automatic rifles, I guess, machine guns, whatever the correct term is, frog marched a guy past. And had bombs.
That's right. You posted on. Karen, we're not.
Sorry, you're not hearing?
No, the hearing's good. We're not. I think we can just about see Harrods. So
okay.
I'll go to your Twitter as the background, and you can just continue talking with the story, because you tweeted on this, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so Joe jumped up to follow them, and they were taken into Harrods. The police. There's obviously a working relationship between Harrods Security and the London Met. Just as I was saying that a Harrods Security walked by, and the London Met have been, some of them in red vehicles, and some of them, the other day I was standing across the way, and I saw a man very agitated come out and take one of the signs. So I kind of walked briskly over, but by the time I got there, the concierge of the building and a policeman with a rifle, you know, small automatic rifle, had got to the scene before I did. And that was only from 20 meters away. So a lot of them are unmarked vehicles. And, yeah, so, and, you know, with all the technology, I mean, they had directional mics 20 years ago, and let alone, you know, whatever whiz-bang things have dreamt up in the meantime. There was a mention just before about a person in an embassy for longer than Julian, and my understanding that was a Catholic bishop in Hungary and Budapest, and the US embassy had been in jail under the Nazis and then under the Russian or Soviet-backed communist dictatorship there. So he was there 15 years. What I'd be interested to know is when the SAS entered the Iranian embassy in 79, this is not a rhetorical question, I'd really like to know, on what legal basis did they go into the Iranian embassy? Did the Ayatollah invite them in? Because you had the case here in the 90s of a shot being fired from the Libyan embassy against an anti-Gaddafi demonstration, and a policewoman was killed by that bullet. And because of diplomatic immunity, everyone from that embassy was allowed safe passage. Also, a thought that occurs to me is, how could China give safe passage to Edward Snowden? How could Indonesia give safe passage to the East Timorese I lived with in Liverpool, who occupied Japanese, Australian, Canadian embassies in Jakarta in the 90s, and gave them safe passage? And how is the UK unable to give safe passage? And maybe that's because China is an independent country and the UK is not, like Australia, like Ireland.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're dealing with, and when I lived in the United States for 4 years, very few people were willing to acknowledge, even in the anti-war movement, that there is such a thing as a US empire. And, you know, we had an anti-war movement in the 80s. It was mostly focused around solidarity with El Salvador and Nicaragua against the Contra War, and also against nuclear weapons and the possibility that all this might end quite suddenly with thermonuclear war between the Soviet Union and the United States. Now, that anti-war movement was wiped out by two things. One is the Sandinistas being voted out, where the Nicaraguan people, after so much war, cried uncle, as they say in the United States, Uncle Sam, I guess. And that was a great defeat for the anti-war movement. And then also the first Gulf War, when people mobilized under the slogan, no more Vietnam. And in the United States, the tragedy of Vietnam is not the near 2 million Indo-Chinese or Laotians and Cambodians and Vietnamese who were killed. The tragedy is only the 53,000 Americans who died in that invasion. Now, it's not even referred to as an invasion. Now, people use the word conflict as though it's some domestic dispute. You know, it was an imperialist invasion of another country. And it's not even the more than 53,000 combat veterans who committed suicide since that war. It's just that thing. So when the anti-war movement mobilized on self-interest or the fear of American death, rather than the solidarity with Arab people who are going to be slaughtered, and then George Bush Sr. got up on the eve of that war. I was in jail at the time after disabling a B-52 bomber with 3 other people, with Moana Cole from Christchurch and 2 Americans still at 2. He got up on the eve of that war and said, I agree with the anti-war movement. There won't be another Vietnam. We won't fight this one with one arm tied behind our back. And what you had was like a mini Hiroshima, especially the last days where they used the fuel air explosive, which is like a mini nuclear weapon. And the UN demand was Iraq should leave Kuwait. Now, when Iraqi conscripts who had replaced the elite who went in initially tried to meet that demand, they were stopped by a bombardment of the highway from Kuwait, and you had what was a weapons test, fuel air explosive. And it's often very rare that you see photographs from that highway of death, but they're very similar to Nagasaki and Hiroshima, like skeletons burned at the steering wheels of cars, etc. So we need to mobilize on love and solidarity, not on fear and self-interest, basically. And you know, talking to this Welsh traveller today, he could immediately relate to Julian Assange, because travellers, you know, in Ireland and Wales are very unkindly despised as the other. And The Guardian, you know, the Lickspittle Press, The Guardian, has done a great job in marginalising Julian Assange and presenting him as the other. and lying about him. And people who were lied to about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq are now believing lies about Julian Assange to expose that war. And in this city, 1.5 million people marched against that war.
Yes.
You know, so in that 03, it wasn't a movement, it was a phenomenon. And people went home when the bombs started falling, and there was very few resisting the occupation of Iraq. They protested the future invasion. And, you know, the point I make as a prisoner, I've done 2 years for anti-war activity, is that if you march, you implicitly incite others to take non-violent action, whether it's whistleblowers like Chelsea Manning, whether it's military resistors like Ben Griffin, who put his weapons down after doing a tour in Iraq, whether it's Michael Lyons, who read WikiLeaks and refused to deploy as a Navy medic to Afghanistan, whether it's Joe Glenson, who did one tour, then went underground in Australia, British Army, or whether it's civilian resistors like myself and the Ploughshares movement and many others who took non-violent action. Now, if you incite people, you're then obligated to accompany them through the courts, through the prison time, through the hospitalisation, or whatever the consequence of their non-violent resistance is. And that has not happened in London. I mean, the few people we have engaged here are mostly not English. They're Eastern Europeans, they're Irish, they're Australians. You know, the English ones who are involved are very much working class. They're from Essex, they're from Brixton. So what it tells you, it doesn't tell you anything about Julian Assange. It tells you about the nature of the society, which looks doomed to me, the society. And, you know, it will not be shortly missed when it goes, you know, unlike the Apaches, unlike the West Uplands, whose cultures are Aboriginal people and Maori people. It will not be missed. It offers very little. You know, most people, I was talking to a Romanian working on the scaffolding here the other day, and he said he preferred communism. He said, not that I do, but I'm an anarchist, but he said that you had a good life, you had a secure life. When you got married, they gave you an apartment. When you had a kid, they gave you an apartment with 2 rooms, and so on and so forth. And at 4 o'clock, you finished work and your life was your own. And I guess our objection to Marxist-Leninism and to Gaddafi and Saddam are all civil libertarian objections, and Assad, which are fair enough, but by the standards of where they're located in the Middle East, the Saudis, they're not too civil libertarian, and neither are any of the other countries. And when you look around this society, most people aren't politically engaged, so they wouldn't have a problem under an authoritarian, because they just want to, you know, consume at Harrods, I guess. And well, going back to something that was mentioned before, what's happening with Julian is not unprecedented. There have been people interned without charge in the UK. A lot of them were Irish Catholics in the north of Ireland in the 70s, when they introduced internment, and that caused Bloody Sunday. And prior to that, during World War II, they interned every German and Italian they could get their hands on. Also, my memory of the late 90s, before the New York attack, the priorities of what was left of the anti-war movement were 2 things. One was Star Wars, and one was Plan Colombia. Now, we can think back, if we're old enough, I'm 58, to South America in the 60s and 70s. And it was full of military dictatorships installed by the United States. You know, the Pope Francis from Argentina, he's from a colony of the United States. He operated as a Jesuit leader when they were dropping nuns out of helicopters into the Atlantic who were working with the poor. So what you had was the Americans took their eye off the ball in South America as they moved from killing Catholics to killing Muslims in the Middle East and Afghanistan. And now they're coming back to address South America. And you see the pink tide of reformists, you know, not extremist governments, just ones who believe in peace and justice, being rolled back. In Brazil, you've got the president in jail. In Ecuador, Korea looking for asylum in Belgium. You've got Chavez dead, suspiciously or not. You've got, you know, the 2 countries, probably Colombia definitely, which is a huge military base in the United States, and Chile, they didn't have much of a tide. But the rest of South America experienced this kind of, you know, Arab Spring, Prague Spring moment when people thought the priorities, but, you know, when I hear the rhetoric of the new ambassador, it's like Australians. Australians find their security in servicing empire. And we've been involved in about 14 wars, and only one can be described as defensive against Japanese empire in the Pacific. The rest were in New Zealand was the first one in Aotearoa, putting down the Maori. We turned up late in Khartoum for Sudan. For Sudan. And then we went off to the Boer War. And then we went into World War One that had nothing to do with defending Australia. It was a fight between the first cousins of the royal families of Europe. And then we went to, and you know, what's celebrated? And, you know, you've got to look at creation myths. And the red poppy thing here is a loyalty oath. And what's celebrated is that working class British people, when they were given the order by public school tops to go over the top, and those public school tops never had any intention at all of going over the top themselves, that the blind obedience based on nationalism led those many thousands of men to their deaths. And that's what's celebrated, and that's what's hyped up. And if you don't wear a red poppy, you're seen as suspicious. There's an Irish footballer here, James McLean. He's from Dore. That's where the Paras murdered 13 of our people on Bloody Sunday. And of course he won't. You know, these red poppies are sewn into every football jersey. And it's not just one day. It drags on for a month. And he refuses every year to wear one. And he's always attacked and harangued. And this year, a Serbian player for Manchester United also refused to wear one. So you look at, when I worked with homeless in Dublin for 7 years in a wet shelter where they could drink, and they drank. And when they got drunk, they would sing rebel songs and revolutionary songs. And the football fans sing those songs too, the Fields of Athenry and all that, you know. When the English working class get drunk, or the British working class, they sing about ruling the waves. You know, that's what their football fans sing about. They don't sing about rebellion. They don't look back to the radical traditions of Britain, or even to Boadicea. If you want to celebrate a militarist in Britain, you should celebrate Boadicea, who resisted the Romans, you know. And so this is the default position of their culture, you know. And the UK, it doesn't look too united at the moment, and it doesn't look like a kingdom. And the Scottish know who they are. The Welsh know who they are. The Irish and even the Northern Irish planters know who they are. Who doesn't know who they are the English. They're completely confused because of the British imperial self-identity they have. And they still have an empire, you know, and that empire was created by the Balkanization of the Ottoman Empire, where they created many of the royal families who live on the street, who own this building. They created them overnight, and they put British bureaucrats right on their shoulder. And that's how the British Empire operates these days, you know. And the American empire is often, obviously, in decline, and that's why you have Donald Trump, a reality TV guy. You know, that's the kind of president you get in the Philippines, old movie stars and stuff. And really, it's over, you know. And I would encourage, I think, I've got a friend living in Budapest, an American. I think he should set up tours for Americans to show what post-empire will look like. Because you go to Budapest and you realise that the fading architecture, that this was once the centre of an empire that is no longer an empire. And that's what the United States is going to go through. And all empires think they'll run forever. You know, they think they're immortal. And they, you know, there's that poem about Ozymandias and the Sikhs that they discover. Look upon my works in despair. Now, they all rise and fall, and they don't fall gently. And, you know, Abbie Hoffman used to say about capitalism and imperialism and the system, all we have to do is give it a few kicks and stay high. Well, yeah, but it's going to collapse under its own weight, was the rest of the quote. But they're going to collapse on a whole lot of us, you know. It's not going to be a gentle, be like my tent last night. And just kind of, it wasn't even a tent. You know, like,
Kieran, what can you tell us about the comings and goings in the embassy? Have you noticed anything special recently? And also, personally, I've been wondering, how does Julian get his food?
Well, it's been a tough. I've got a shirt on tonight. It's a New Zealand shirt. It's a shearer's shirt, Swanee. And I was wearing that the first day Julian got lifted and taken to Wandsworth prison and put in solitary. So I've been at this for 8 years, and speculation is stressful. And I've been working on a need-to-know basis, as Donald Trump, I think, wisely said, with known knowns, known unknowns, and unknown unknowns. So I don't know that. My job is to make him visible. And as people pass me, they utter the word Assange. Now, if there wasn't a visible presence here, they wouldn't be uttering that word, you know. This morning, an upper-class guy said he should come out and face the charges. And I said, well, there are no charges. And I said, because I was a little sleep-deprived, I said, who are you being brainwashed by, the Sun or the Guardian? He said, I read the Times. I go, oh, well, you know, I tried to explain to him that there are no charges. And the comings and goings of the police I'm very familiar with. It got very heightened once Marino made that speech. They came to see a capture surrender, but it's my assumption, knowing Julian, that there won't be a surrender, you know, which would imply to many people defeat or guilt. And Julian is seasoned. Like, he was facing 36 charges when he was in his early 20s for his 17-year-old behaviour leading up to the First Gulf War, the famous wankworm. That was before the World Wide Web. So this is a guy that was looking at 20 years in his early 20s, and that didn't scare him. You know, he believes in what he's doing. And I've said before, there's only two people I've met like as him, who, and I've said this, you know, I've lived with hundreds of refugees who have fled the extremities of empire. These are the two guys who run into the headlights of empire. They've abandoned their so-called white privilege or their, you know, locus imperii. They're either, Bill was American, Julian was Australian, which is like the suburb of the USA, and they could. Now, Julian would be a multi-millionaire in Silicon Valley, no question. And he's, you know, put that aside because he has empathy with the poor, with those who have been killed by British.
Kieran, you've cut out. It maybe you're going to areas where the reception isn't that good.
About them, and they successfully marginalised them, and that's what they've done to Julian Assange.
Kieran, you just cut out.
Okay, so just to say, with that parallel between the Berrigans, Philip and Daniel, the pacifist priests, they were on the front page of Time magazine in 1968, celebrated, just like Julian Assange was on the front page in 2010. Now, Hoover and Nixon, Hoover, who ran the FBI for nearly 50 years, had a meeting about destroying them, and they successfully marginalised them. And I'm sure many similar meetings have occurred around Julian Assange. So these were, you know, Phil Berrigan especially, who I lived with for a year, and Julian Assange are the people from the centre of empire who are willing to run into the headlights of empire because they have a sense of solidarity with those who have no choice but to be bombed, to watch their children starve, you know. So he is an historic figure, Julian, you know, as was Phil. And yeah, it's amazing that it doesn't resonate with the people shopping here tonight. And all I can see is a certain kind of zombification of civil society, where people have lost the ability to empathise with the other, you know, and to see the co-option of Christmas, which is such a radical thing to me as a person of faith, into a kind of shopping consumerist orgy, is pretty stunning, right next to Harrods, you know, which is world-renowned. And so in terms of the comings and goings, it's obviously a heightened, more stressful environment. The policing is constant. The parking of the vehicle directly under what they assume is Julian's window. These are all attacks on his mental health and his physical health. But, you know, I think Julian is beyond that. And all you have once they confine you, in my experience, is your spirituality, which is a sense of who you are, and the solidarity of others. And whether that's writing a postcard to Julian, whether that's standing outside this embassy, whether it's going to places of significance like Australian embassies and British embassies. Some friends went to the British consulate yesterday, Senator Andrew Bartlett and Sister Kay McPadden, who works with Indigenous people, and Damien Lagoulon. That's very important. This street here is only one place. The real decisions are being made in the United States, in Australia. Now, what you're hearing there. All these rich kids from Qatar and Kuwait bring their sports vehicles over, usually in the summer, yes. And they're made for the open road, but they drive around here revving them up. And apparently that's fun. Anyway, so most of the stuff I'm using I've dumpster dived out of fairly wealthy bin bags, and I found this one today. Can you see that?
No, we can't see anything, Kieran.
Okay, it's a Santa sack, and I've got on top, let's give the Assange family the gift of safe passage to their loved one for Christmas. So
cool. Kieran,
I'm trying to work all the angles here.
Sabine is around, isn't she? She's got a good low light one, so at some stage you'll be able to show us.
Yeah, she's not here. It's just me and Joe at the moment.
Oh,
today there was. She
might be from her home.
Yeah, if people come down to help. Yesterday we had 15 people from lots of different countries, and we had a song. One guy wrote a Beatles number to free Assange, and
cool.
And speaking, and that was in the alley that Harrods told us was not public space, and we assumed that Julian could hear that.
Yes.
So that's important, and yeah. So I'm very wary of infiltration, but people come down and that allows us to charge up phones and go to the bathroom and all that kind of stuff, and otherwise I'm pretty much on site.
Yes. Yes.
But obviously, the sacking of I think half the staff got sacked and the ambassador. And, that's such a pathetic letter. It's so subservient. Like, yes, we want to be an American colony again. We want to be under your umbrella. Please come and exploit our people. That's what that guy's saying. We will give you the head of Julian Assange. But, the Australians were willing to give his head on the first day. The Labor Party Prime Minister, Julia Gillard, wanted to hand him over, take his passport away. And Kevin Rudd, the foreign minister at that time, stopped her for whatever motivation. Obviously, Kevin and Julie didn't get on, or whether he was doing it from a civil libertarian perspective, I'm not sure. But they wouldn't renew Julian's passport this year. And they came down once. I confronted Alexander Downer in the street at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, and his last words were snidely, well, he's Ecuadorian now, Well, that's not true. He's a dual citizen like I am, like many elected Australian politicians discovered they were. And you're responsible for him, Mr. Downer, and you haven't done the job you are paid for. Neither has Stop the War Coalition, who are well paid in the city, done the job of supporting someone who exposed the war they were involved in protesting. So, you've got to ask, where are, the veterans organisations that are supposed to be anti-war, the civilian organisations, when this guy's being hung out to dry,
Yes. Yes.
And, yeah. And
Kieran,
congratulations on doing this tonight. Yeah.
Hi, Sabine. Sabine's here from her home. But,
Kieran, okay. She's in cyberspace. Rightio. Yep. Yep.
You posted a clip on your Twitter saying that was intense. I'll screen share it. And you posted a film. It goes on for a couple of hours. I tried to.
That was a live feed from Russia Today.
That's right.
One of along with Euro News and the NBC, who turned up. The NBC brought a satellite dish, but you can see they've got scaffolding outside this building, and you don't paint outside of buildings in the winter when there's very little light and there's rain. And I cast mine back to 20 years ago when I stood outside the Indonesian embassy when they were having the Timorese ballot for independence, and which was followed by a scorched earth policy by the Indonesian military. And they also had scaffolding on their building. So whether that's a coincidence, but it definitely deters television coverage of the drama being played out here.
Yeah, totally.
And that was an insight given to me by a professional filmmaker. That's not my insight.
Yes. If you can see I don't know, people can see your tweet. I'll just read it out, Kieran. That was intense. Been a stressful 8 years to free Assange. As we go from marathon to sprint to marathon to sprint again. Felt like a sprint tonight as 5 Camden Catholic workers mobilised to defend Free Assange. That's 2 more than Jesus had at the foot of the cross.
Yeah, I think there are 3 women at the foot of the cross, yeah. And Jesus played big crowds as well as Julian. Sermon on the Mount was a big gig. Yeah, so how disengaged people are. I mean, Julian's been invisible for 7 months. And, you know, by having a 24/7 vigil, it creates visibility. And, you know, we're in a sprint now. This is the end game, I believe, you know.
Yes.
I mean, I thought that in the summer. I thought that on the first day I came down here 17 days ago. What the British would prefer, you cast your mind back to the 9/11 attack and an internal Labor Party email that said, this is a good day to release bad news. You want to put up the price of cigarettes? Do it today, because the media will be swamped by one story. The British would rather wait for the royal baby to be born, and that's 7 pages, and Julian be on page 8. The Ecuadorians want him gone yesterday. Well, not the Ecuadorians, the new president. The Americans, they've got a legal process now. The judge has got I'm not know if she's done that ruling yet on unsealing the indictment, but they've also got the former head of the CIA possibly facing charges. So whether that affects whether they want to speed it up, they've pretty much got him where they want him, back in Wandsworth, where he's in solitary. They want him offline. That's their primary interest. And, you know, so, you know, the Ecuadorians are obviously in a hurry to please the Americans.
Yes.
The British want a day where he won't be part of the media coverage, and God knows what the Americans want. But the American government, I'm referring to government, not people.
Yes. Kieran, shall I play a little bit of that, the YouTube clip from when you said it was intense? I just put out the link to Roughly, so it's probably could be a bit boring. I mean, it's just a shot of the building, and there's not a lot of action or audio. Yeah, it's 2 hours 25.
Yeah, we can continue talking.
That was a live feed from Roughly, I think.
Yes. So all the new, I will share it. Even I just just to give the ambience there. So what time does the live feed start? What hour of the morning?
Well, in the summer, Russia Today had a person here 24 hours a day on 3 shifts for 12 days, and they deployed the guy last night, and so did NBC. NBC brought a satellite dish, but they packed up within about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And you know, as one of them said, they're not going to take him and his media around. They're going to take.
Yes, and it's you around too. And that's the whole point, isn't it?
Yeah, me. Well, yeah, no, but I'm going to wait for me to go to the bathroom, or whether they're just going to put a gun to my head. I don't know, but I don't think I'm going to be a small speed bump to what they're doing, but I'll non-violently resist what they're doing. That's what I'm going to do.
Yes.
And you know, obviously Christmas is a good time to do it when everyone's distracted and there's no public transport, and you know, so it's all speculation really. It could be tonight, and it's very stressful to remain on that kind of level of alert. Like I remember when the Ecuadorian Marino left the country, he was here speaking at a conference. We thought, oh, that might be the night. Once he's spoken to the spooks here, and as soon as he left, the van full of cops turned up. They all jumped out with weapons, and I slowly moved over to the entrance and sat there. And they didn't even engage me, didn't talk to me. Way of, you know, trying to scare Julian and anyone who supported him, I guess. And you know, our concern though is the London Met have a long record of killing unarmed people. Like if you think of Charles Mendez, they put 9 bullets in his head while he was sitting on a tube at Stockwell, and they had the wrong guy. They thought he was Pakistani, he was Brazilian. They killed Ian Tomlinson. They killed Harry Stanley because they thought he was Irish, he was Scottish. And not involved in anything politically. And then you look at the SAS, who executed the Gibraltar Three when they were unarmed. They actually chased Danny McCain, who was 100 metres behind Sean Savage and Eric Farrell. They could have easily handcuffed them, but they shot them. So that would be our biggest concern. And by articulating that concern, we believe it's helping minimise that possibility.
Yes, people will be aware of it, yes. Yeah, we should make a point about it. Karen, as you speak, I mean, you're...
And then, when you get... I spent 9 months... What's that?
Oh,
once you're in the US... Once you're... Here's some police now.
Oh, you're watching it? Great.
So they're just doing the embassy rounds, probably. Yeah, I mean, Whitey Bulger was murdered in prison 3 weeks ago. That's the guy they based the film The Departed on, with Jack Nicholson, and I think it was Black Mass with Johnny Depp. He was on the run for 15 years. So you can be set up to be killed pretty easily in a US prison system.
Yes.
As you can in any prison system, really. So the more solidarity, the more visible we make it, the safer it is for it, And,
yes.
And that was my experience in Pecos. I was arrested near the Canadian border on a US Air Force base. We disabled the B-52. I was sentenced in Syracuse. They put me on Conair and flew me to the Mexican border. Then they put me in a jail in Pecos, very small town. And I was in a cage with 23 other men in a room with 5 other cages. And the first month I was assaulted, spat on, etc. I was the only white guy in the jail. And then the amount of support mail, correspondence I got, everyone started to back off. The guards started to back off. And the guards are basically cowards. If they think you've got any reach on the outside, any support on the outside, that's significant. That was our experience in Darwin in jail. That was experience with a friend in Belmarsh. But as soon as there was a protest outside, they started treating you a lot more cautiously. And, you can't underestimate even those kind of minimal acts of solidarity. They want you out of sight, out of mind, and
yes.
And we have a prisoner, probably the anti-war prisoner of our generation, right in central London, 100 metres from a tube exit. And he won't be that close when they put him in Florence, Colorado, So this is the time to come and express your solidarity.
Yes. Karen, as you're speaking, I'm just playing this clip.
But, yeah. As you say, it's a lot more agitated than it has been. It's increasingly agitated and stressful. And obviously there's a handover between the former or the present ambassador and the next guy. There'll be an overlap of their presence in London. So there's a changing of the guard, and what once was the sanctuary for Julian Assange has now become a trap.
Yes, but you still... Oh, you're cutting out again. I'm sorry, Karen.
You're walking too close to Assange's.
Just like they were based across the street of the tenement buildings that contain... So they often make mistakes.
Yes. So will the cameras be there?
The media cameras?
Yes.
I don't know. I've got the feeling when they do, they were here and then they cross live from America. What Americans want to see is, they really want to see Mary Poppins, when they want to go to London. And they at least want to see a building that looks English. Now, you've got scaffolding, and I was talking to one crew and said, you should go down the side in the alley and take a shot from there, But surely these people who are paid to do this for a living could have considered that option. So in the summer, a lot of them were here, stalking the place quite a length of time. But, Christmas in any workplace gets pretty scatty, and that might be a time that they'll move on in.
Yes.
But then again, that's speculation.
People...
And, then some people got to be thinking about the next step. Like, they'll put him in a jail, and I assume it won't be London. Or, they'll try and, as they did with me, that I was on trial in New York and I ended up in Southwest Texas. So they usually isolate political prisoners geographically as much as possible.
Yes. And you're obviously hoping that he'll stay in.
So someone's got to be thinking. Yeah, I mean, I would think what I'll do is go to wherever that is and try and do some organising for a while before going home to see my mother, who's a bit worried about me.
Yes.
So she's 88 next week. Yeah.
Wow. This,
so, you know, and with all these things, so, you know, if you, like any football team over here, they've all got 22 on their roster and to put 11 on the field. So someone might be injured or someone might be having a crisis and can't play this week. So you need a bigger squad. Then, you know, we need ideally 2 people here. 3 is really good. And so we have a squad of 10 people. Now, some of them are in 9-to-5 occupations, some of them in occupations with flexible work hours, and some, like myself and a couple of others, are quite rich and resource poor. So we have to work as a team, and not everyone has to be on hands present. Like, it'd be good if someone was at Downing Street, it'd be good if someone was at Australia House, if we had the numbers, you know. And you got to ask, what is the Stop the War Coalition doing? What are Veterans of Peace doing? You know, like, I haven't got an answer to that. It's not a rhetorical question. Like, some of these people are paid, you know, to organise anti-war activity. And this man's being persecuted for anti-war publishing. So, yeah. And, you know, I think I've got a friend, a Buddhist monk and Japanese guy, and he's fasting all week, but I believe he'll come and join us once that fast is over. So they fast from December 1st to 7th, and upon on my Hojai. So he's, they've got stamina. I first met them when they walked from Panama to DC. I was just released from jail, and they were walking 2 years after the bombing of Panama by the US military. And we walked to the north of Ireland together in 1996. They walked from Auschwitz to Hiroshima. So hopefully he'll come down and join us. It'd be great if the Quakers had their meetings in the alley. It'd be great if Muslims came to pray in the alley. It'd be great, you know, for those kind of communities to come here.
Yes.
That does sound like reinforcement, but it's not. Yeah.
Are you wearing a headlamp?
Yeah. So, you know, am I?
What is the bright light?
No, I've got a lamp behind me.
Oh, it's the lamp behind you. Okay.
Is that better if I face that way?
Is that Harrods? That's Harrods, eh?
I've got a lamp.
Oh, yeah.
I'm facing a lamp now. Should I turn around and face that way?
Oh, we don't see much.
I've got a candle. Hang on.
Joanne was actually sort of saying, should she shine a torch in your face to help out? Because
yeah, some of the cameras.
Okay, I've lost Jo. I don't know where she's wandered off to.
That's all good.
Jo, where are you?
It was great watching along.
She's taking her own autonomous action somewhere.
You're interacting there in that live video from Rupley.
Technologically inefficient. Oh, Jo. I think she might have gone to.
Yeah.
Get supplies or something. Yeah.
I'm not sure what's going on here.
That's cool.
So,
how's it going, baby? You're muted.
What's that? It's all good in the hood. All good in the Knightsbridge hood. Oh, no.
I think I've unmuted myself.
Yep, we can hear you now.
Am I done pretty much? Or?
Oh, well, Oh,
I'll hang around. Yep.
I was hoping to. Well, I always love chatting to you and also going through your Twitter feed.
Yeah, no, I'm no rush. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere, and until Julian leaves the building.
Yeah.
And
well. Yeah.
Or do you want to do that now? Or? Okay, yeah. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, I'm listening. I asked my father how he got his broken nose once, and he said I was talking when I should have been listening. And that was like an implied threat or some sort of advice.
Okay, I'll share your. Well, is it showing your Twitter feed at the moment?
Yep.
Because also
bigger if you can. Yeah.
Joe, you have wonderful photos, but also from yesterday, I think Joanne also did a tweet for yesterday marking the 8-year. Can you see the tweet, people? We're at the embassy to mark 8-year arbitrary detainment for free Julian Assange, singing, praying, and hoping for justice. So this was yesterday.
Yeah, Silver's working on.
So really nice photos, and you're all, as you say, a group of 10 Camden Catholic worker, and I really love the background. Also, Kieran, I have to admit I was very unaware of the Berrigan brothers, and also I knew about Waihopai and all that, but I didn't connect it with you.
It's a quote by Phil Berrigan. One quote by Phil Berrigan, which is applicable here, is if they come for the innocent without stepping over your body, curse be your religion and your life. But this one is, the poor tell us who we are, the prophets tell us who we could be, so we hide the poor and kill the prophets. That was Phil. Phil was a veteran of the Battle of the Bulge when he was a teenager, and then became a pacifist, influenced by Martin Luther King as he worked as a priest in New Orleans.
Yes.
And then began raiding draft boards at Catonsville. And Phil and Dan were in the top 10 most wanted FBI list before being captured. They went underground, and by Julian, they didn't turn up to where the state told them to be, and then they were framed on a Harrisburg conspiracy trial, accused of conspiracy to kidnap Henry Kissinger.
Really?
And were found not guilty. Yeah, they offered no defense at all. Ramsey Clark, the former Attorney General, replaced Bobby Kennedy, was defending them. And after the prosecution, which was based on a police informant, the defense got up and said, these people oppose the war, they will always oppose the war, and the defense rests. So that was a complete defense, and they were found not guilty. So that shows you. They lied about the Berrigans, they lied about Julian Assange, they lied about weapons of mass destruction. And Phil writes a very good, powerful reflection on how the lies are the basis of killing and war. And Julian, the Gospels tell us the truth will set us free. And Julian makes the point that if wars are based on lies, maybe by telling the truth, we can end them and bring about peace.
Yes. So
some things are eternal. As a person of faith, I believe things in my life like love are eternal. That truth is eternal, and some things are temporary. Like a lot of this Harrod shit, and you got to get, you just got to start living eternally around the truth and around love, and less around, the appetites of capitalists. They think we're donkeys. They control us by offering us a carrot, a bribe, or a stick, threaten us. And Julian could have taken that bribe and be in Silicon Valley poolside raking in millions of dollars, and he could have been scared of the stick that was wagged at him in his early 20s. And, sorry, ma'am, sorry, No, there. I'll throw some sheet over it. Sorry. No, it's all my gear. Yeah. No worries. Sure. Okay.
You got the hecklers there. See.
No, this is all our stuff. I'll just
yeah.
But yeah, no, ma'am, no, come on. So,
is it quiet there? At this, it's about.
Anyway, no. I just need to throw some black sheep. I told us what the
That's all right. Sounds like Kieran's having people.
That's okay. Here's Joe, and she's Joe. You throw the black sheets over that. We just had a gypsy lady trying to access our stuff. We got our stuff sold in Dublin with Julian Assange stuff and Bridget's crosses abandoned. And then the city council rang us up and said, "You can't be throwing away holy stuff." So we got
fantastic.
It's just interesting to see, like, the actual goings on. So it's 9:46 a.m. here in New Zealand. So I believe it is 8:46 p.m. in London.
Yeah, that's about right. Apologies to those of you watching on the stream. We're still getting a few sort of frame hiccups where we lose signal for a bit. So
Kitty's usually good at looking at the questions, and I'm pretty bad at people's questions. So I'll just have a look at the screen share as well. See if there are any questions on our stream. So it's got Timbuktu's back again. Hi, Timbuktu. And Mulan's here too. Oh, but let's see. I have to get rid of this. No. I'm
popping out the chat, or I'm.
There it is.
Yeah, that's the way.
So Mulan. Oh, Matey's left. I'm sorry. I think. And Zafafa, if his has a lot of questions, I think, but I don't know. They're Christian Zeldova says, "Sending my love to you, Kieran." Oh, because there are a lot of questions. People asking, have you talked to the Duchess Megan of York, Meghan Markle, Kieran? So I don't know. They're not the question. And what is Daniel Ellsberg doing to help free Julian Assange? He's doing a lot. He's actually been coming on vigils and everything.
Certainly, you can see the videos on our channel of his previous messages and things. He's certainly doing a lot.
And some praise for Jose. Jose's reporting is always captivating and helps us understand what's in play in Ecuador. And Paddy Maguire. Oh, Jose, are you there at the moment? Sorry to jump from one to the other.
Yes.
Someone has, Paddy Maguire has asked a question. Jose, what is the position of Telesur?
Well, the Telesur is progressive, and you know the government just took them off the took Telesur off the of the where you look for channels on the cable. They,
Yes.
if you look for their channel here in Ecuador, they remove them.
Wow.
This was yesterday. Yeah, they removed them from the searching option. So I don't think I haven't tuned in to Telesur today, but I will check to see if I can see them. But I would not be surprised, because remember when President Macri came to office in Argentina about a year ago, more than a year ago. One of the first things he did was to remove Telesur from the cable network. So that tells you, they are in the same line. You remember the post that I did to hold on a second. Here's the tweet. Can you see it?
Okay, I just changed the view. I'll stop the share and I'll try to go into.
Yeah. Well, I put my camera on the screen.
That's all right. I've got it.
I can zoom in. Well, that's where the rumor is not a rumor, really. Maria Vicuña, the vice president who resigned about 3 days ago, she made a tweet on that day, and it says, the country does not deserve this instability. And that is why I present my resignation as vice president. I am not going to lend myself to rumors of political turmoil, of the resignation of the president, or grave internal commotion. Hello?
Yes, we're listening. Yes.
It says every action is in the benefit of these citizens. So that's what I just found out. That's where the rumor came from. She tweeted about that, about the resignation of the president.
It came from the vice president, the former vice president.
Right.
Just resigned.
Yeah, the day she resigned, she tweeted this, and I just found out a few minutes ago that Lenin is actually coming back to Ecuador in the January the 2nd here. You see it?
Yes.
On that. It says right here. He's coming on the 2nd of January. After China, he's going to Spain. Now, my question is, why is he going to Spain? Because he was there recently, a few months ago. Remember when he went to England first, to the UK, for that meeting of the handicap, and that people were protesting outside his presence. And then after that, he went to Spain.
Yes.
And we never knew why he went there. And now he's going there again. Why? I ask myself.
And he doesn't.
We don't know
even
why he's going there. No.
What does he say?
No, nothing.
He just
no,
says,
it just says that because you see, by law, he is supposed to ask to let the National Assembly know that he's going to leave the country. Now, I'm asking myself, who's going to be the vice president? We don't have a vice president. And according to the Constitution, the following, the person who follows that in this case is the president of the National Assembly.
Yes.
Because we don't have a vice president.
And who is that?
It appears that's the I forgot her name. She's also one of the persons, the politicians that were close to Rafael Correa, and at the last with this Lenin, she just turned to the right too. So according to the Constitution, she should be the president, because the Constitution says that if there is no president, the vice president becomes the president, yes. Right? And I think every country has that that sort of arrangement. Yes. So in this case, we don't have a vice president. Or yesterday, Lenin Moreno sent the 3 names of the vice presidential candidates, being number 1, the guy who has money outside of the country hidden. So yes. My guess is that having the president of the National Assembly in his favor, I don't know if she's going to get the votes to elect him in a rush vote as the vice president, because the National Assembly has to. They are the ones who have to accept yes. whether such a person is the vice president or not. But Lenin is more, he's going out, I think, tomorrow night. Probably, yeah, tomorrow night. That's what I read here in the paper. So, because it says here that that he's going to leave the 8th and the 9th. See it there?
Yes, vaguely. And what reason does it give? What reason does it give for his trip?
He says that he's going to make a partial economic agreement with China, and that's what they say in the press. I do not know, because it's strange, that he's going from, he's going to be outside of the country for 3 weeks, right?
Yes. It's very strange.
Yes, because we are in the first week of December.
Yes.
So he's coming back on the 2nd day of January, which is 3 weeks, almost. No, yeah, it's 3 weeks. And we have 3 more weeks of.
Actually, Kieran was just saying that a lot of things happen around Christmas when people are preoccupied with other things.
Right. Well, yeah, and you saw the tweet by the resigning vice president.
The resigning, yes.
It says very clearly there, right here. See it?
Yes, yes, we can see it.
It says very clear there.
So that is where the rumor came from.
Right, because she said that. Why did she say it? That's because there is something going on in the background,
Yes.
Remember the secret meeting that I tweeted about almost 2 months ago? There was a secret meeting where in a private residential neighborhood, a luxurious residential neighborhood in Quito. And the meeting was the general of the armed forces of Ecuador.
Oh no!
It was the right-wing, the right-wing leader of the Guayaquil party, and also other politicians, right-wing politicians, conservative ones. So there, the general said that they did not trust Lenin anymore. So maybe, I don't know, something is happening for sure. So I guess that's why she's talking about the resignation of the president.
Wow.
That's the only reason I can think of, because she's not going to make up something like that, right?
I don't know.
Well, yeah, because you know, I think there's something is going on there. Also, I wanted to show you how one of the most one of the papers that is attacking Correa and all he did is called the La Hora.com newspaper. They're very vicious.
Yes.
And here you can see, they call Julian Assange hacker.
Yes.
Hacker. You see it there?
Yes. He used to be a hacker when he was younger.
Right. They are saying hacker Julian Assange is not accepting the almost freedom in you know, here.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that Ecuador is looking as an exit from the Ecuadorian embassy.
Yeah.
So you know the the rumor has some truth. It says right here. I'm shocked. You know that Lenin Moreno is going out of the country for 3 weeks. That is unheard of. And well, we do know that his wife likes luxury.
Yes.
Yes, his wife likes luxury, and last time she was in Spain, she had gone to buy some luxury jewels.
Yes.
In downtown Madrid.
Yes.
And there was chaos in the traffic. And so she made news at that time. So there you have it.
Wow.
Something is going to happen, I think, this month.
So remind me, what date is he leaving? Just in 3 or 4 days?
It says here that let me zoom in.
Difficult to see, I think.
Shadow. According, is there?
Yes.
Right there.
Difficult to see.
From the 8th to the 9th of the month up to 2nd of January. He'll be in Spain. Here's Spain right here.
8th or 9th? So he's already left.
That's today or tomorrow.
Yes, he's probably leaving today, yes.
Until the new year.
And he says that, right, and he says that he's going to be in, I can read it. He's going to be in Spain to make deals in the transport of air transport and tourism, and visit the University of Salamanca.
Yes. So for Julian Assange,
he's going. Yeah, he's going to Spain first. It says right here, and then after that, he's going to go to Peking from the 10th to the 13th of December, and he's going to be there for the rest of the year.
So if something happens to Julian,
and then after that, he's going to Qatar. Yeah, he's going to be in China until the 13th, right here.
Yeah.
And then he's going to Qatar on the 16th to the 19th of December.
Yes.
So he is going to on a tour.
And then from the 19th to, what is it, the 4th or 5th?
Yeah, he's going to Spain. Yeah, he's going to Spain, then to China, and then he's going to Qatar.
Yes.
And that's where he's going to spend. He's arriving there on the 16th, and he's going to be there until January.
Didn't it say 16th until 19th?
Yes, but he has well, they say that, but he asked permission for that until the 2nd of January that he's going to be out of the country. So he doesn't say where he's going after the Qatar. So
wow.
So he's going on a good, touring trip, and he's going on the presidential jet. It's all free, and because you see, everywhere he goes, they receive gifts. I mean, luxury gifts. I mean, yes. And Rafael Correa, that was the first things that he did. He ordered all government officials that received gifts to take them to the presidential palace storage to be sold to the public.
Yes.
That's what Correa did.
Yes.
And he sold a lot of that luxurious. I mean, you should see the things that they give them. I mean, things that you would not believe. Collars full of diamonds. Watches that cost $15,000, $40,000, things like that. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. So Correa, made that decision, and I think it was the right decision because, you avoid the, the accusation of corruption. Yes. He accepted, for example, a Gucci watch, diamond watch from such person in that country, and he's probably gonna want favors, because that's the Arab countries are famous for giving extremely luxurious gifts.
So that might be the only reason.
Jewelry that costs more than, yeah.
That might be the only reason.
That's the only reason. I don't see. Right, because you see a high-level government official from Qatar was here just about 2 months ago.
Yes.
On a business deal between the two countries. So I don't know why he's going there. It seems to be that way, and so that's why the vice president, I guess, trips that don't make sense. Maybe the China trip makes sense because but the rest of the countries don't make sense. So it seems to me that he doesn't want to be in the country.
Yes.
That's what it looks like. That he doesn't want to be in the country. So they're probably going to be, there's going to be happening some big things in Ecuador.
And maybe with Julian Assange also.
Right, yeah. Also that is dangerous. This time is dangerous while the guy is away.
Yes.
So how long could it take the new ambassador in London to set up, do you think?
Yes.
I mean, the Merchant, the new ambassador, he has already been there. I mean, he's been ambassador in other countries.
So
he knows
hearing first. Yeah, so he'll be ready to roll. Come the new week almost. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So he's probably, I don't know. We'll hear something in the next few days. I guess. That's for sure. So that's why it's important for people to be outside.
Yes. There was.
I was reading a tweet that Susie. Yeah, she was calling for bigger protests, outside of the embassy.
Yes.
So I don't know if that is possible or not.
Yes, it would be nice.
Of course, that will help a lot. Yeah.
Yes.
During the day, I think it would be good to have a lot of people there with signs and everything.
Yes, it's wonderful.
Outside.
And Jose, we do like to give a real plug to the long-time vigilists there. That's particularly you know, we've been talking with Kieran a long time, and he's always free to talk and very interesting as well. So at the moment, I'm screen sharing a tweet from one of the other longtime vigilists, Emmy, who sends her apologies, by the way. She was interested on coming on today, but something came up, so she sent her apologies. But at the embassy, every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 3 to 5 p.m., we hold posters and banners and distribute flyers to passers-by, alerting the public. And I think that's a good time to segue on to Sabine, if that's okay. Who I'm sorry, you've been there for a long time, Sabine. Who's also a vigilance. If that's
all right.
okay with you, Jose. Okay, so I'll stop the share and I'll go back to and also so with us at the moment, you can see is Sabine, who we're just talking to, and Jose, we've been talking to. And 3 Prism is that's Joanne Morrison's mobile phone, I believe, from the Ecuadorian embassy. She's in the London Catholic Workers Group along with Kieran, and Kieran's using her phone, and obviously Joe Booth is here as well. So hi Sabine, BB Honeybee.
Hello.
Hello.
I thought, you know, just very briefly, I don't know, I think last time you seemed to be interested to find out a bit more about the candle actions and how they came about.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm actually a product of Unity4J happening, if that makes sense. So, you know, I only jumped on board rather late.
Yes.
Obviously, I was very aware of WikiLeaks and what had happened to Julian Assange. I also, you know, heard when they cut off his communication at the end of March, and I remember seeing a tweet from Yanis Varoufakis and thinking, oh, that's really bad.
Yes.
But then you know, things.
Oh, she's cut out, has she? Sabine, are you still with us?
It'll probably reconnect. She's just.
Yeah, Sabine, you've cut out. I'm not too sure if you realise.
Yeah. Something's happening there, but low connection or something.
That's just her, though, isn't it? It's not the rest of us.
No, we seem to be fine. So yeah.
Oh, okay. So Sabine, well, you're the expert, Joe, but it might be a good idea for her to jump off and then jump back on. Would that help or not?
Yeah. If it's not connecting.
Okay.
Hi,
you're back.
Hi, Sabine.
That is really unpleasant. Internet problems.
You're good again now. Yes.
I don't know how much you heard. So basically, did you hear anything at all?
You're cutting in and out again. Not very well.
If it might work a bit better, maybe just turn off your video and talk. It might save a bit of video and bandwidth.
Okay. I'm just having a look. I know what's the moment. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hear me and see me? I'm using an internet extension now. It should be stronger, the signal.
Yes, it looks like it's up.
Okay.
Yes.
It's still showing as red, but yeah, we should be able to catch you.
Let's try. If not, I switch the video off. So what I was saying is, I was under the impression last time that you wanted to hear a bit how this came about, the candle actions.
Yes.
And I said I'm kind of a product or a result of Unity4J happening.
Cool.
Because I was aware, obviously, of WikiLeaks and Julian's situation, but I had no idea how bad it was. I did hear when his internet was cut off at the end of March, but again, had no idea how bad it actually was. And then I stumbled upon, I think, the third online vigil. Unity4J online vigil, and I heard Susie Dawson actually talk about Julian's health.
Yes.
And I thought, holy shit, this is really horrible. And that's when I actually started investigating a bit more what was actually going on. And I made contact with the vigil crew, with Emmy and Matt Kieran and the others. At the beginning, I wasn't very successful meeting other people. So I thought, well, I'm just going to do my own thing. And I think at the end of August, must have been, I did this first candle thing, actually in front of Harrods, because I had no idea, to be honest. I didn't even know which side of the building was the Ecuadorian embassy and which side was the Colombian embassy, and that was a funny experience because I was completely by myself. I wasn't quite sure, am I an absolute lunatic, or is this making any sense what I'm doing here? And it kind of worked, it attracted some attention. And I've been doing it since, on and off.
Excellent.
When I have time. And sometimes people kind of laugh about it or belittle it a little bit, but I think it's just a vehicle to attract attention,
Yes.
And yeah, so I think there's been like 7, 8, no, it must be more actually, probably 10 or more candle actions in different places, and sometimes with real candles, sometimes with electric lights. The last one was
places? Yes.
If you want to, Bruce, you can very, very briefly hop onto my Twitter feed and see some of the pictures.
That's exactly what I'm trying to do, yes.
I mean, I always say that the candles only make sense if they actually make people take action, So just the candles by themselves, they're, nice to look at. But my hope is that people start to find out about what's happening, like I did in August.
Yes.
Can you hear me all right now?
Yeah, we're hearing you.
All right.
Who's muted? I'm muted.
I don't know. Are you finding the Twitters?
Yes, I'm a little slow, but I've got it.
All good.
So I'll screen share now.
I mean, only just very, very briefly, if you go on my Twitter and then go to media.
So this is your Twitter account, which is BB Honeybee.
So that's one of my favorites.
Wow, that's beautiful.
It's fantastic.
That's traveled quite far and wide. That was last night. Well, this morning at 4 or 5 a.m. The video is a bit boring. For me, the connection was really the hope thing, which you see under, so hope. Yes, I believe there is hope if we take action. So, it's sometimes really, in my opinion, so many supporters of Assange seem to have given up. It seems to be a given that he's going to be checked out of the embassy, that he's going to be extradited to the US. But actually, it hasn't happened yet, and maybe there's hope we can prevent it. But we have to do something. And then the question is, what can we do apart from obviously being at the embassy, witnessing what's happening? Like Kieran says, he's sees himself as a speed bump to slow things down. And yes, of course, the presence of the vigilists might deter certain powers to actually check him out, but there's many other legal considerations, and we don't know how it's going to play out. But the question is, the onus really is very much on the UK and also on the UK government. And obviously they're very, very busy with Brexit at the minute and haven't got any time whatsoever to consider anything else that has nothing to do with Brexit. But I really think that people should try to put some pressure on MPs, write letters, post them online, post the stupid responses you get, or that you didn't receive a response. Do the same with NGOs. We don't expect much from them, but at least we can embarrass them, if that makes sense, by showing that they don't seem to give a damn about what's happening to Julian Assange.
Yes.
Is that making sense, what I'm saying?
Yes, it is, certainly.
Yeah.
But also, I love these candle displays. You do a really. How do you get the different colors? Is it just a different color wax?
Well, there's three different sets of candles. So one version is the real tea lights, real candles in jars. Then there are the golden candles. So the one that says peace. They're like golden candles. They're just flickering like real lights. And then there's another. I can show you.
Yes.
I've got a big basket with candles here. So they just change lights. So they are just, probably looks very boring on the screen. Can you see that it's going from, now it's green, now it's getting blue. It's
so
just
has it got a little battery
LED battery thing.
LED battery, yes. Okay.
Yeah. I bought them out of desperation because the real candles didn't quite work. So when I did the first candle action, I had real candles, and I used plastic cups, and they would just melt, and the wind would blow them out, and I was completely by myself. A drunk guy actually came along and walked into my candles and threw them all over.
Yes.
So anyway, it was not easy. It was quite windy, and I thought, no, I'm not going to do this again. This is just too stressful. So that's how I then started looking into electric lights. So it's just been experimenting.
Yeah.
And so is that? You said there were 3 types, but now you're just using those ones you just showed us?
Mostly, yeah. The golden ones are being having some maintenance work.
Yes.
I need to see whether I can replace the batteries or not, basically. Whether it's not, whether it's affordable or not.
Oh, I see. But
to be honest, the technical details of how the candles work are relatively. I don't know how important it is. I'm just hoping that it will, Huh?
Well, this is a WikiBees.
I think we have a bit of a delay.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just really hoping it will inspire.
Where's that noise
on the ground there with Kieran?
What's going on?
Hi.
Hi. Hello, this is Joe. I'll just pass you over to Kieran.
Hi, Joe. Yes.
Hi, yeah. Won't be a sec.
Sabine cut out, and then some noise appeared from the street, I think.
All right.
Hi, Kieran. We can actually see you better now. Also.
Okay. Should just stay put as you. Okay, I can hear you clearly. Yeah.
Excellent.
So I just got my back to the front room.
Yes.
Yep. Okay, I'm ready. If you want to.
We just got Sabine talking, but we've just lost her again, I think.
So carry on, I think. So it's the two of you there now. What's the weather like today, Kieran?
What's happening right now? It's kind of off and on rain, and all the Harrod staff are leaving from the fire exit right next to where I'm camped. So there's a big underground pedestrian tunnel, I assume, that they're coming through. There's just hundreds and hundreds of them. So yeah, the weather's probably global warming. It's been pretty mild, but off and on rain today, and yesterday. But yeah, it's been a lot worse. But yeah, it's all right.
Yeah.
Not like beautiful Brisbane, but still.
Yes.
Certainly, you've sacrificed a lot to be there and staying there.
Well, yeah, I guess I was thinking about that and about that it's not really a choice. It's something I feel compelled to do. Like, I don't think after 8 years that I can, walk away from this. And Dan Berrigan, the Jesuit older brother of Phil, once said, "Do what you cannot not do," And that's definitely a situation here for me. And, yeah, it's been very interesting. I gave a talk last night. It might be up on YouTube soon, on self-mortification, which gets a bad rap. But, often in the Catholic tradition, people will walk on pilgrimage. The Camino is a very famous one of that. People kind of experiment with sleep deprivation and staying up all night in vigil. And that really heightens your spiritual side of your self, I believe. And another thing Dan Berrigan said was, just don't do something, stand there. And
yes.
I'm doing a lot of sitting here too, but the world is really coming to me, like the Muslim woman who brought me some food just before, the gypsy woman who tried to take my stuff, the Welsh travellers who are here today. There's an Arab corporate lawyer who lives nearby who helps charge the charger. Our second charger failed, so we swapped over to Joe's phone. I'm meeting a lot of people in proximity of this place. I've met a couple of prisoners, ex-prisoners. One guy did 6 years and another who did 2, and walking distance of place. And they have an immediate empathy and sympathy for Julian's predicament, especially the aspect of sensory deprivation. As I said, a lot of the working poor, whether they be security staff who are former veterans of the war of Iraq and Afghanistan, or refugees from Syria, or the breakup of Yugoslavia, there's an incredible amount of experience and trauma in the vicinity of this place. So obviously you see the hot rod kids with their expensive cars, but the people who actually service them are very, very interesting. And some have read quite a bit about WikiLeaks, and so you can never judge anyone really, And then you have Australians. There were a few young Australians here before, kind of making jokes, and I went over and kind of admonished them a bit, and they kind of started talking seriously, so it was good. I mean, Australians, I believe, are the largest migrant group in London. They're invisible because they're white, I guess, but and there are Americans who come here. Some have taken the Clinton Kool-Aid and believe she didn't achieve the presidency because of Julian. I've read the book Shattered about the Clinton campaign, and it wasn't only a bad choice of candidate. She was first lady when 1 million children in Iraq were killed by her husband's genocidal sanctions. She is the most responsible for the destruction of Libya, the most literate country in Africa. a country that was not in debt.
Yeah.
And she couldn't present as an outsider, where, you know, Trump somehow could. And I don't believe Trump, you know, Michael Moore's film, I haven't seen it yet, I saw an interview on Democracy Now! Where, you know, it was basically, he didn't believe he could win. He just wanted to boost his he just loves attention, Donald. It could be good attention or bad attention, just likes attention. That was certainly the case when I lived in New York City. You look at him, you look at the two places that were booked the night of the election. Clinton had his false glass ceiling that was going to fall. You know, I mean, so she's a woman president. I mean, has she not heard of Indira Gandhi, Julia Gillard, Margaret Thatcher? You know, the list is endless. There's no big breakthrough. You know, feminism has, you know, like Christianity has been co-opted. Feminism and everything, punk rock, trade unions, Irish republicanism, have all been co-opted by what Jesus confronted in the desert, which was power, wealth, and status. And now we're reduced to there's another lime green sports car. Now we're reduced to celebrating whenever there's a woman CEO who's going to exploit us. And somehow that's a breakthrough. And, you know, I spoke last time about Serena Williams doing a press conference after that match, and she had Nike across the chest. And Nike enslaved children in the Philippines to make their stuff, and they pay Serena Williams quite a bit to promote it. So it's sad to see all the things that came out of the anti-Vietnam War movement, what was called the New Left, as it splintered into feminism, as it splintered into identity politics, be so co-opted. And now the people we're really got to worry about are what they call the turnkey totalitarians of Silicon Valley. And they present with a very liberal face, a very gay face, a very trans face, black face, disabled face. But their agenda or their technology, they just have to turn the key. And it's you know, that's the technocratic fascism that we spoke about in the 70s. And she's kind of literally married into that, Serena Williams. You know, so, and how they can, as I said before, how they control the liberal left in the States is through philanthropy. They give people gifts and money and patronage, and then they pull the strings. So even on The Intercept, you hear this kind of undercurrent cynicism about, I won't describe what just went by, but okay.
You can.
So it was a tricycle with a very loud sound system. The kind of I think Chairman Mao banned rickshaws, didn't he? But at least they don't have to pull these guys. They can just cycle. But yeah, so it presents with its liberal veneer, you know. But you know what they're going to serve us up is very, very frightening. And a lot of these people are buying land in New Zealand because they know the ecological end game is coming, and they're not doing anything to stop it. They're just, you know, if you read the book Ben Elton wrote years ago, The Second Eden, it was very dystopian and very prophetic about that. So good luck in New Zealand resisting that.
Certainly, we're preparing for the worst, of course. I'm obviously here from the Internet Party, and yes.
Have you seen that film Five Eyes documentary?
I haven't caught that yet. I have been meaning to. Just missed it at the documentary. I caught the last 10 minutes or so, and it was.
Yeah, that's based around a ploughshares action on Waihopi, that I gave evidence at the trial in 2010, and they were found not guilty after deflating. It looked a bit like a used condom, one of those domes that you see at Pine Gap and elsewhere.
Photos of that are still circulating and very famous.
And they were found not. What was interesting in that case, when we were found not guilty in Ireland of $2.5 million criminal damage to a US warplane en route to the invasion of Iraq, you look at the cables that came out of the US Embassy finding that acquittal, and they're, of course, furious, and they suggest to privately sue us, even though we've been found not guilty. But they didn't think they could get away with that in Ireland. But that's what they did to the Waihopi 3, even though they were found not guilty. They launched this civil suit against them. So that had been considered against us, and the idea didn't go away. So, yeah, it's an interesting film. It combines the ploughshares tradition with the raid on Kim.com and And also what was mentioned earlier about this ambassador coming. I was 15 when the Canberra coup happened and the elected reformist Whitlam government was sacked by the Queen's representative, the Governor-General. And who was the ambassador at the time was a guy called Marshall Green. And his CV had Vietnam and it had Chile, I'm pretty sure, during the coup or the lead up to the Allende coup. So, you know, they know how to move these guys around. And that's also, if you see a film that's heavily suppressed, The Snowman and the Falcon, about Christopher Boyce at Dalton Lee. And it's got a David Bowie soundtrack. It's got Sean Penn. It's got the guy who played James Bond for a while. That, you know, it was a big film for its time, and you can't find it anywhere. And so the Whitlam sacking influenced Christopher Boyce, who had a summer job with TRW as subcontracting to the NSA. This is back in 1975, and he leaked the information, and he ended up in the isolation of the Supermax Marion, Illinois, after a successful prison escape from Lompoc. And it's good to know that Christopher Boyce, the Falcon, who's always had an interest in falconeering, is out on the streets again and married his lawyer and seems quite happy with life. So he went through a lot, exposing the CIA's role in Australia, which is supposed to be an ally in getting rid of the reformist Whitlam government that brought us out of Vietnam, released conscripts from jail, and tried to buy back the farm. They tried to buy back the foreign-owned mining industry. And that's what brought them undone with the help of Rupert Murdoch and John Kerr, the Governor-General at the time. So that can happen in a place like Australia, let alone South America, and, which has a long history of torture and dictatorship. And so, you know, they kill the best and the brightest in Latin America and Central America, and they destroyed those societies. Then they complain about refugees coming to the imperial centre. It's just, you know, it's just amazing that they can get away with that. And I can tell you what, Hans Crescent is the imperial centre. It's an amazing street. It's a short street. It's the burkas by day and high-class prostitution at night. I often refer to our vigil because we're working with limited numbers and resources. Someone will just leave and 10 minutes later someone will appear, and I always call it like a bedroom fast, you know, an old British comedy set in a hotel. But in the early hours of the morning, it literally becomes a bedroom fast on the street. It's pretty weird, you know. So, yeah.
If
so,
I'd like to ask, Kieran, is it high-class prostitutes with cars? I mean, servicing cars.
Oh, they have people delivering them, yeah. And, you know, which is, there's probably, I was thinking the other day, it's probably got a lot, the oldest profession's probably got a lot more loyalty and solidarity amongst its workers than journalism and the media. Because you think back to the murder of Greg Shackleton and the Balibo Four just before the full invasion of East Timor in a small town called Balibo on the West Timor border, and the guy who led that raiding party ended up in the ministry of the Indonesian government. Now, Australian journalists, they should have kept Greg Shackleton's memory alive, you know, because he died doing what they did, doing journalism. And the two shot down in the collateral murder, they were doing what they did. And the lack of solidarity amongst journalists is astounding. And we invited Shirley Shackleton, Greg's widow, who was an incredible campaigner for Timor, when no one was interested in the 80s. And we brought her to Greg's home state, Queensland. For the first time, she was invited to speak, and she's a great speaker, on the 20th anniversary of his death. And that was the first time she'd been invited to Queensland, his home state. Now, Julian Assange's home state, or his birth state, he was born in Townsville, Queensland. And, you know, Queenslanders should embrace him as a Queenslander. People from Townsville, which is named after a racist slaver, Mr Town, who took Kanakis to cut the cane in Queensland. They could have that town redeemed by celebrating that it's the birthplace of Julian Assange. As, you know, as people in Haverford, West Wales should have celebrated Chelsea Manning's high school years there, and some did, but you know, we got to look for every angle that we can. You know, like Julian's parents were involved in the anti-Vietnam War movement. He grew up in an anti-war home, and this had a huge influence on him. And He was born in Queensland in 1971 when our government, Bjelke Petersen, a Kiwi, not that I resent that, but declared a state of emergency. So a racially selected rugby team from South Africa could play a few rugby matches, and it was a state of emergency. That's the year Julian's born. So, and then when I was 17 and he was 6, they suspended all civil rights for 4 years. You couldn't vigil, you couldn't march, you couldn't speak publicly, you couldn't gather than 3 or more people. So that's, you know, probably affected Julian's commitment to free speech, since it was so hard to come by in Queensland in the late 70s, early 80s. And that tied in, of course, with the corruption that was exposed by the Fitzgerald inquiry, that we had a relationship between a corrupt police force that was on the take from illegal casinos and brothels, and even ran child porn from Juvenile Aid Bureau. And the government turned a blind eye to that, and the police force that was willing to be used on the streets politically against people expressing opposition to uranium mining and nuclear power. And so there's a relationship between censorship and corruption, and the lack of transparency and corruption. And, you know, and WikiLeaks has been a great gift. You know, if people want to live in the real world, WikiLeaks, if there is going to be a real world, and that's a big if, WikiLeaks will be part of that, and telling the truth will be part of that, and solidarity will be part of that, and love will be part of that. You know, all this other stuff that people are getting worked up about at Harrods tonight is also very temporary. You know, so.
Karen, do you follow the way that civil rights are being taken away in Australia? Shocks me.
Yeah, it's you know, well, when I was last year at high school, I was arrested twice at high school merely for trying to march against the mining of uranium. So now it's taken away in a much more sophisticated way. And, you know, the police force has also got a lot more militarised in Australia. Like the cops that were beating us up in our teens they were mostly overweight. They were unfit. And then I remember doing a vigil in Sydney when John Howard was 10th anniversary or something. And all of a sudden behind us, this paramilitary force turned up, you know, all their socks tucked into their boots, looking really fit. And there was like 5 of us doing a vigil. And there's a book about the militarisation of the Victorian police force. What you have is a drift from the Australian SAS, and they come in at a high level in the police force and militarise it. And
yes.
So, you know, here in England, it's interesting, and this is why I think it's a military operation here, is the police claim to be underfunded. Well, Boris Johnson and the London Met are whinging about being underfunded, squandered 11 million quid surrounding Julian Assange for 3 years. Now, he took away the visible surveillance of shortly before the UN ruled what was happening here was arbitrary and illegal. But the non-visible, the cops you got to worry about are not the ones you see, you know.
Yes.
And then the military are overfunded. You've got the Trident nuclear submarine program, and the British military have a long history of policing in the north of Ireland, and that where they took over policing roles. And the London Met, they screwed up. They lost Julian Assange when he was electronically tagged. So I think it will be a military operation. Obviously, the Mendez killing involves 14 company surveillance. And, you know, it's going to be a catch, a trophy for whoever arrests Julian Assange.
Yes. Did you hear? You probably missed it, but Jose pointed out that the Ecuadorian president is out of the country from now until the new year.
Oh, really? From now?
From now,
right
yeah.
Now.
Yeah, 8th or 9th he was supposed to leave.
Wow.
So
yeah, that's very suspicious. Yeah. And yep, doesn't sound like a coincidence. Yeah, the sense I have, which is, you know, mostly subjective, is, and that's why I'm here, is that this is the end game. So up to this point, we were going to local Queen's Park Rangers matches, which is a local football team, and doing outreach there. And we've stopped doing that because we think the campaign is over, this phase of the campaign, that, the location of Knightsbridge will become irrelevant once Julian is extracted from here. And it could be Durham, it could be some far-flung prison like that, will be the geography, and we'll be starting all over again from scratch. So what I'm doing at the moment is focusing on meeting local people who are in walking distance, who are sympathetic, and encourage them to come to Vigil. I've given up on the British anti-war movement, their organisations. Most people we get here aren't English, they're Australians, or they're Latin American, or they're Eastern European. Just trying to meet local people and who resonate with what's going on. And they're from a variety of backgrounds. As I said, a corporate lawyer, a couple of ex-prisoners who are obviously doing pretty well to be living in this neighborhood. All sorts of random people. And as I said, a lot of them have traumatic historic experiences with empire, whether it be in Syria or whether it be in former Yugoslavia or whether it be in Latin America. Everyone's got their story,
Yes. Do you, I just had a thought, do you know how many people have been able to visit Julian since they said they'd lifted the restrictions?
Well, I assume there's been a change of protocol, but I think it would be very, very tight. In the early years, I could go in there and sometimes it felt like a student lounge, there'd been kind of a very small student lounge. Yes. But, I took Jello Biafra in there from the dead Kennedys and also went in with John Cusack, the actor, and other people, and there's a lot of humor and free-flowing conversation and political debate. And then the last couple of times I've visited, I haven't been to Julian's room. They brought me in, they frisk you, they take your phone off you, your passport, and then they put me in an empty room the last two times, and then Julian is let in, and it's a fairly sterile environment. So obviously, even at that point, before the big crackdown in March, and the crackdown in March happens, I think someone mentioned it, a day after the US Southern Command visits Quito. And, as I've said before, the reasons why wars are fought and young men and women fight wars are completely different. And the reasons why they turned off the internet are very different from anything to do with Catalonia or Julian expressing an opinion. It came a day after the US military went to Quito and made certain demands. And the previous president, I believe, expelled the US military base. It's being invited back in. So Julian Assange is just, the treatment of Julian Assange, the betrayal of Julian Assange, is just an expression of the rollback in South America of the US empire. And it's going to get a lot bloodier and gorier before it's over. And, but Latin Americans know that. They have a long history of suffering under US-sponsored dictatorships. You read some of Noam Chomsky's work from the 70s. And, the myth that World War II was a war against fascism, when the US went on to sponsor every nasty fascist dictatorship from the Shah of Iran to the juntas in Guatemala and Chile and everywhere else, fascism won World War II. It spread like a wildfire throughout the US empire, sponsored by, training Latin American troops at Fort Benning, Georgia. The 6 Jesuits who were killed had their brains cut out of their head on the 16th of November, 89, I believe. They were killed by the Atlantica Battalion who just returned from Fort Benning. The sniper that took out Bishop Romero while he was saying Mass was trained at Fort Benning. And when I went to Fort Benning, Fort Benning is in Georgia, United States. Yes. School of the Americas or School of the Assassins. It's changed its name to Western Hemisphere or something or other. But if you go soaw.org, you'll find that. And when I went there, Lieutenant Kelly had a jewelry store there. Now, Lieutenant Kelly was convicted of the My Lai massacre during Vietnam and did a little bit of time of house arrest. And he was located in that small town there. And I actually donated blood to the first anniversary action after the Jesuits were killed in 1990. And then Father Roy Bourgeois, ironic name for a radical priest, but he's Cajun, and it's a French name. And then the two brothers, friends of mine, Charlie Litke, who was a priest during the Vietnam War, a military chaplain who won the Congressional Medal of Honor for saving about 20 veterans under fire, dragging them out wounded, and his brother Pat Litke, who was originally in our B-52 action and then dropped out to do this action with his brother. And they took our blood down to School Americas on the first anniversary and poured it, I think, over the trophy case or the entrance. It was a lot of blood. I think they used a turkey baster or something. But,
oh, wow.
And then I don't even know what that is. And every year people would go, and it peaked at about 20,000 people on the anniversary, and there'd be civil disobedience, and often people would get 6 months jail for crossing the line. And it was great. It was a great gathering about Latin American solidarity, and we would do solidarity actions at US embassies in Ireland when it was on. And, so that's, the low intensity conflict that South America knows so well. And the thing about it's also interesting. Two things that struck me, being into paradoxes, is that Chelsea Manning begins incommunicado. We don't hear from her for 2 years until someone secretly tapes her during a court hearing. And Julian Assange ends in this phase incommunicado. The other thing is that with both their nuclear weapons and Julian Assange, they will neither confirm nor deny the presence of nuclear weapons aboard ships or planes. Now, New Zealand stopped nuclear warship visits, but because the Americans wouldn't confirm or deny, they stopped all warship visits. But I was arrested with Moana Cole, who's now a barrister in Christchurch for moral legal aid, and we'd been in prison in the States, and we were arrested at Christchurch Airport, where they have a deep freeze base. But twice a week, starlifters go through that base on the way to Richmond and Sydney, and then on the way to Pine Gap, which is the biggest NSA base outside the United States. And so those starlifters would also carry nuclear weapons on occasion, but and they would neither confirm nor deny that. But New Zealand was still letting them through. That's actually, that arrest is the footage of that arrest, me and Moana, is part of the Five Eyes documentary. That was back in 1993 or something like that. And so neither confirmed nor denied nuclear weapons. Now, the American military strategy is what's called escalation dominance. What violence is a sustained exploitation. They want to exploit Ecuador and South America. If they can get the job done with a death squad, they'll use a death squad. If they need the Colombian military, they'll use that. If they need the US Marines, they'll escalate to that level. If they need B-52 bombardment, they'll escalate to that level. They'll escalate all the way to thermonuclear war. Now, also what they won't confirm or deny until recently was whether Julian Assange had an indictment. And whether that was purposely leaked, we don't know, but accidentally leaked. So that neither confirm or deny. I think some American bureaucrat was asked why they wouldn't do that, confirm it, and he said, "We don't want him sleeping at night." So both the biggest card in their pack, nuclear weapons, they won't confirm or deny, and the biggest threat to them, the truth, incarnated in Julian Assange and his willingness to sacrifice his liberty, which is second only to what we as Christians believe it's our life as a gift. They weren't confirming or denying. So I thought that was an interesting double play.
Yeah. Oh, that's how many times have you been in New Zealand, Karen? Just a personal question.
On my way to the United States in '87, just missed an earthquake in Whakatane in '89 or '90. I was at Hope Bay Beach for a couple of months, and then there's a Catholic worker in Christchurch, and I met Sam Land. I went to give evidence that the Catholic workers had broken into Pine Gap and were hit with a very hard charge under the National Security Act, and I flew from Ireland to give evidence. And I met Sam there. He's the one who gave me that red shirt that I had on the day Julian was lifted, and a kind of Maori type ritual. And after I gave evidence, and I was back in Brisbane to hear of their acquittal. But the evidence I gave at that trial was, had I met him? Yes. 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 Had I met him? Yes what did I tell him? I told him I was acquitted of non-violently disarming part of the war machine, and that it's quite legal to do that. So that obviously influenced his state of mind. Then the prosecution said, Mr. O'Reilly, you've been involved in a number of these power shares actions. I said, that's correct. And he said, some of them have been successful and some have been unsuccessful. And I said, what do you mean? We always get to target. He said, no, some of you have been convicted of and some of you have been unconvicted of. And I turned to the jury and I said, that all depends if the jury has a conscience or not. It's got nothing to do with me. So obviously this Wellington jury did have a conscience, and they found the people.
Fantastic.
So, you know, we do the action and that's a gift, and other people run with it. Some people wrote songs about it. Some WikiLeaks exposed the cables of the reaction to it. Some people do other actions. And what's really funny, though, is that the Americans especially have such a respect for private property of not human life, the American government, that when we got out of jail after our B-52 action, they gave us our hammers back and our bolt cutters. So we sent a hammer to some folks in England, and Chris Cole walked into British Aerospace and did £500,000 worth of disarmament. And then he got out of jail and they gave the hammer back, and that was handed to 4 women who went into the Seeds of Hope ploughshares, disabled a Hawk fighter. I think that was £2 million. And when they got out of jail, they gave the hammer back. And that was handed on to 2 Catholic workers who went in and disabled a nuclear convoy vehicle. And then they got out of jail. They gave me the hammer back, the same one I used in B-52. I took it to Ireland and we used it on the US Navy warplane en route to Iraq. So that hammer hasn't been put beyond use, as they say. It's still there, and hopefully it has a long future in front of it. So that shows you the contrast, the sanctity of private property and the lack of sacredness around the children being killed in Yemen today. You know?
Yes. Yeah, that's incredible.
And you know, another gift was in Ireland. In New York, we represented ourselves. We had 4 co-counsel, including 2 Vietnam veterans. And in Ireland, the community decided we wanted to be fully represented. I was in a dissenting position in that, but I deferred to my community, and we were gifted with a great legal team. There's a very good book called Hammered by the Irish by Harry Brown. And so, you know, I just thought, oh, well, we've done the action and these people want to run a legal case with it and they've got the expertise to do that. I'll hand it to them. And we ended up having 3 trials. And we had Jimmy Massey, who was an Iraq veteran, American veteran, come and give evidence, Kelly Doherty. We had Dennis Halliday, who's a UN guy in Iraq for the oil to food program and resigned saying the sanctions were genocidal. He's an Irish Quaker in origin. We had Kathy Kelly, who was under bombardment in the first Gulf War and in the invasion, give evidence. That jury who were dragged from the streets of Dublin, where the media does not, you know, give an honest account of the role of Shannon Airport and the role of and what was happening in the war, once they heard evidence, could see morally that the crime was with the government and not with 5 people trying to stop it. And we were found not guilty. Yeah. So I had cleared my social calendar for the next 3 or 4 years and packed, and was pleasantly surprised to be in the pub that night rather than a jail cell. So it was, you know, it's part of the historic record. There was militant, non-violent opposition in Ireland to the US legions that came through Shannon Airport, and you know, they're smart enough. The only Americans the Irish saw at Shannon were fit young men and women. They didn't bring the corpses back through Shannon. They went through Saudi Arabia. They didn't bring the maimed and the wounded through Shannon. If they had, maybe there would have been industrial action at the airport. But they were smart enough to bring the dead and the wounded not back through the airport. They also brought people being tortured, being sent to Guantanamo, kidnapping flights. And this is only in recent memory and living memory of Irish people being tortured in the north of Ireland in the 70s. You know, where things like hooding and stress position were used by the British in the north of Ireland and made outlawed by the European courts. But the Americans picked that up and they ran with it, and they brought waterboarding in, and they brought in all sorts of torture, you know. So with the Chelsea Manning case, you know, once you let the thin edge of the wedge in and permit torture, they even use it on white people in the military, and they did on Chelsea Manning. They tortured Chelsea Manning in Iraq, in Kuwait, and in Quantico. And so, you know, torture. I think originally John McCain, who'd been tortured in Vietnam as a POW, had a very strong opposition to Guantanamo torture. And it was just not Guantanamo. Like, they had all these black sites, and in Poland they had them on US battleships, and we thought torture was, in the West anyway, a thing of the past, and it was revived, and then Donald Trump celebrates it, that waterboarding's not tough enough, and like all these people who walk by and make cynical comments about Julian. First thing I say, have you ever spent a night in jail? Have you ever been detained? No. Well, you really don't know what this guy's going through, Julian's will be the first of many of us who are going to get interned, who are going to get lied about, who are going to get let down and betrayed by organisations like Stop the War, who haven't taken up his cause in their own city. And so it's a real shame,
Yes.
So yeah, so
well, you're certainly doing it for the right reasons. You're certainly doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah, I mean, we're all complex characters. I've been sleep deprived. I've got a temper on me, and I had to go to the bathroom when I came back as an Ecuadorian security guard, and the guy from Harrods monstering a young guy who was accompanying me through the night. And at school I hated peer group pressure and hated bullying, so I just yelled at them, and then the big, both of them, I had no intention of physically engaging them. They would have eaten me even at my prime. So the Harrods guy retreated back into the loading bays, and I just gave him a lecture on what's happening right next door to where he works, and asked the question, are you a good German? Are you one of those Germans who didn't actively participate in the killing of Jews, but just looked the other way, and I outlined what his military had done in Iraq. And, so what PTSD is, I believe, is the suppression of emotion. And obviously you have to do that on the battlefield. If your mate takes a shot to the face, you can't grieve, you can't feel empathy. You've got to keep fighting, because you might take a shot, or the other guy next to you might. And in this case, watching the cynicism some days and the attacks on Julian, I know it's not helpful for me to yell at people, and I try and suppress that emotion. But sometimes I fail. And, suppressed anger also leads to depression, and I do not want to go there again, so it's interesting. It's been an interesting 17, 18 days, and, just observing, like the ultra rich, they're not happy. They really aren't. And we need to liberate them from their opulence, so they can become more human and more happy, really. And this guy, the Romanian guy I was talking to the other day, he's working on here. Like, he says life in London is so stressful compared to his life under Kinescu. So, the poor get capitalism. They got to duck and dive in the gig economy, and the rich get socialism. They get state funding to make their millions out of weapons. It's a ridiculous world we live in, and unless we change it fast, it's not going to go for very much longer ecologically.
Yeah.
Well, can I say that as another sports car comes around the corner?
It's a very interesting place you're in, and it's certainly great to have people like you on the ground. We're going to have to wrap this up fairly shortly.
No worries. Thanks for your time, and
it's fantastic to hear from you every time. And it's great to hear your perspective on the world as well as on the situation.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thanks for giving me the opportunity. I never get invited to speak at anti-war rallies in my 40 years.
Oh, you know,
maybe because I mentioned the name Julian Assange. They really don't want to hear that in London.
Very loose and open here on WikiBees, and we certainly do ask anyone who's involved working for Julian, working to save him, to help him in any way, to share their experiences, to share what they're doing. And like you were saying before, if you stand up, then other people will follow. We certainly do feel that same responsibility to carry through and make sure that people that stand up are supported and carry on. So it's great to have you on board. And
we're just getting
all the rest.
Just got Polish reinforcements here right now with food, so it's a good time to wind up.
Fantastic.
Do you want to put them on, Karen, to say hello?
Yeah, do you want to say a few words? To who? WikiBees, so to international Julians, while you're here. Okay, hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you, yes.
Hi.
Fantastic to see you in support of Julian and bringing food as well.
Kieran asked me to say something, and yes, I would like to say the following thing. I'm from Poland, and we went in 80s, at the end of 1980s, to the end of the communism system, which was a very oppressive system. And I remember I was listening at the time to radio financed by Western agencies. The radio was called Radio Free Europe. And in this radio, we've been updated every day on facts about who was detained, who was, for example, killed by the regime. And this was the source of information at the time available for us and founded by Western countries. And today is for me astonishing that actually the situation is the other way around, that in a center of the capital, as anyone could assume, the capital of democracy in Europe, London, we have a political prisoner which is facing a grave danger of unlawful for life imprisonment, or as some people think, maybe even a death penalty. And this is something for me unimaginable, that in London in 2018, in a 21st century, yes, the policy of the state can be so cruel, yes, and forgetting about actual message which they were sending to us, to Poles, in 1980s. Is just beyond my imagination.
Thank you very much. That's very powerful. Thank you.
Yes, and this is the reason, and this is actually the reason why I'm here, to support Kieran and support anyone who is voicing the necessity of free Julian Assange. From other perspective also, because there's also another perspective quite important. Like almost 500 years ago, a free thinker, Giordano Bruno, was executed on Campo di Fiori in Rome. And his only sin at the time was the fact that he decided to deny the right of Catholic Church authority to speak about, let's say, the model of universe. And at the time, he was following a few other astronomers, of course, was about the idea that the geocentric system based on Bible is actually not correct, because it's the system is the helio system, yes, heliocentric system. But my point is that he paid at the time the price with his life for standing by the truth. And Catholic Church did it only for one purpose, to defend on authority which couldn't be doubted, that can make error, a mistake in interpretation of the Holy Bible. And today, in a parallel understanding, actually democracy, Western democracy, is behaving like the Holy Inquisition, yes, of Catholic Church, and is fighting for own survival in front of the world public. By silence Julian Assange, they trying to do exactly what Catholic Church did with Giordano Bruno. And we know that sooner or later the whole world will acknowledge that the system is wrong, that the society is legitimate to participate in a true sense in political process, in social process that is not correct, that a very narrow elite give herself the right to justify what public is entitled to know and what isn't. And behind all this disclosure or closure is actually a private, very, very private interest. And that's why I will stand until I'm here by the truth which Julian Assange brought to us. This is something very important, and we all own Julian Assange a lot, and we have to support him.
Yes. Oh, thanks very much. What's your name, sorry?
Arkadiusz.
Arkadiusz. Wonderful.
Arkadiusz.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your attention.
Oh, you're welcome. Yes, we ran a little bit over because you were giving such a beautiful speech and motivation for supporting Julian. It's been a wonderful session, and it's always wonderful to talk to Kieran here. And is that Kieran coming up in the background? And is there anyone else who wants to say hello very briefly, because we're really wrapping up?
Yes, let me check. Joe, they're asking you for a few words on this. And I give you the put in your ears.
Yeah, sure.
Hi, Joe.
Hello. Hi, Bruce. Hi.
Thanks for the beautiful songs last time also.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. It's certainly been an unexpected situation to be involved with, and it's surprising how kind of you just become used to doing those things all of a sudden once the community builds and everyone kind of draws on any skills that they have. You can kind of put those into practice, and for me, as you know, singing comes naturally. I enjoy it, so yeah, it's good to offer something, you know.
Yes. 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 I'll carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I met Kieran at the Catholic Worker Farm, where I used to go a couple of days a week to help out. I occasionally drop by still, but anyway, I met Kieran earlier on this year, and he handed me a flyer for the vigil that was taking place June this year.
Yes.
And I thought, wow, do you know what? I've not really thought about Julian Assange for a long time. So I had a couple of weeks to really research and look into the whole thing again and refresh my knowledge before the vigil took place. And I thought, wow, you know, WikiLeaks helped to expose the inner workings of imperialism. Yes, I have to go along to this vigil. I have to support this this cause. And really, I mean, there's lots of causes. There's lots of things you can kind of get involved with. You know, obviously, a lot of people sort of go and sort of vigil for Greenpeace and environmental stuff. But I just feel that being here really encapsulates so much because it's only when you have the truth and facts shared among the people that we can have any chance of things getting better, really.
Yes.
And so so I think I'm here for injustice and justice,
Yes.
So that's why it kind of makes sense to me to come down. And also you realise, what a huge smear campaign it's been, and so it's really good to talk to people and to bring them up to speed, really, with what's going on and what's happened. And it's surprising how many people, well, I suppose how many people were like me at the beginning of the year, that hadn't really or had stopped kind of following this situation.
Yes.
So that's very telling. And as we were talking about this a while ago, and we were saying that when we were having one of our group meetings, one of our community meetings, that this is a very rare opportunity that you can kind of just jump on a tube and go and support a political prisoner, and a political prisoner that can actually see that support. Because I'm told, when you're in prison, one of the things the people around you try to make you believe is that people have forgotten you.
Yes.
And that you're alone and you're isolated. So so that's another thing. It's important to witness this and to come down and just be here really out of pure solidarity.
Yes. Oh, wonderful. Yes. Yes. Your contribution of the well, it's been a wonderful meeting today.
Yeah.
And we'll always have a place for being live at the embassy. I mean, there's nowhere else that we could better be filming at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, your mobile phone is working very well. So,
so this is my phone. I heard you say that you thought previously that was my phone too, but it wasn't. That was Kieran's phone. And then when his phone died for tonight, I quickly sort of downloaded Zoom, and seems to be working fine on my phone, doesn't it? So maybe we'll do that in future. Maybe
excellent.
Yeah, the next time that Kieran speaks, we'll do it through this phone because it is very clear, isn't it?
Very good. Yes.
Yeah, it's a lot better.
Mm.
Okay, Joe's been trying to get me to wrap up for quite a while.
Okay.
But
All right, great. Well,
yeah, we'll try and regularly, like every week, come on and you have the priority, the people at the embassy every week. So hopefully, yes, next week, and hopefully the situation with Julian, I think we're hoping it stays the same actually, because otherwise it's likely to get worse.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks very much, Bruce. I'm going to pass you on to Kieran so he can just say a quick goodbye.
Yes, excellent.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Joe. Bye.
Just say goodbye.
See you. Goodbye. Goodbye. Good luck and God bless. And thanks for all your work. Keep on keeping on. Slán. That's Irish for goodbye.
Oh yeah, Slán. I start saying thanks, Kieran. Thanks, and thanks everyone else who's come on. Jose who's come on, and Sabine who's come on. It's been, well, I think it's been a very good session. It's been mostly about the embassy in London, but
no, thank you. I'm going.
I don't think I'll ever apologize for that. I think that's how it should be. And also a report from Ecuador from Jose, bravely reporting from Ecuador, is always good to have on this. So this has been one Wikibees where we're not really working on specific projects, but these people are really working for Julian Assange, and it's a good way to wrap it up. Joe, anything?
No, fantastic session. I must apologise. We didn't actually make it to Periscope today, but we do have a full recording if need be, and we're certainly on YouTube. So it was a great session today, and we're working through, and we should have even a better one next week. So it's been fantastic to see you all, and let's see you all again soon. And it's fantastic. A reminder, if you're doing any Unity for J Day actions today, do tag us and we'll certainly get the message out there. It's fantastic to see all your pictures and efforts in solidarity with Julian, wherever you are, particularly around the world. Yeah. Anyway, so that's us, and we'll wrap. I'll just take us out with a video or something, and yeah. Fantastic stuff. Thank you all.
Excellent. Bye-bye, everyone.
Catch you all. All right.